Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Vote.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss. Russ Dobular is in transit somewhere. He's en route somewhere. He's in Asia somewhere, going from one Thai city to another. I only know Bangkok. I don't know any other Thai cities. He keeps saying it, and I keep forgetting what it is. But he's very excited to be on his way there. And he may or may not, wink, wink, give us a call from the train in about an hour or so. May or may not. So keep you posted on that. But we are going to get right into things. We have two special guests joining us tonight in Russ's absence. The first I'm going to introduce right now. She's the host of the Katie Halper Show and the co-host of Useful Idiots alongside Aaron Mate. Please welcome back to the show, Katie Halper. Katie, great to see you again.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Great to be back.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for filling in. Really, really do appreciate it very much. You have been crushing it. So you do Useful Idiots, you do your show once a week, and then you do Monday morning, right? Which is
yes. We've actually been starting to do more streams on the Katie Halper Show because there's so much going on. So we're like adding these extra streams. I'm inspired by how industrious you and Russ are, because you really are hardworking lads. So we try to, I think probably independent of how inspired I am of you guys, but yeah, I'm trying to do more frequent ones.
Well, you had Professor Morandi on yesterday, right?
Yeah.
From Iran?
Yeah. We had a special stream a couple weeks ago on Venezuela, where we spoke to people there. So there's so much happening, and we're trying to do more. And it's an insane time. I know everyone says that, and it's always a cliche, but it really is true. I feel like it's extra insane now.
No, it's insane. I mean, it's really insane. Now I understand why the media hated Trump so much. I couldn't ever really figure it out in the first term. I'm like, what, how is he? I mean, this term he is especially bad, no doubt.
Yes.
All right,
Really isn't comparable. It's like the libs kind of who said that stuff last time, and it was hyperbole. Now it's actually happening.
I know. God damn him for proving them right.
I know.
But
they weren't right at the time.
No, they were not right at the time. But the worst thing he ever did was prove them right in the long run.
Yeah.
It's his greatest offense, in my view.
But also part of the reason it's hard to, what makes him one of the things that gives him so much strength now, I think, is that people really started tuning out what was hyperbolic, and now there's less credibility.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, if I were to ever be in a position to initiate some sort of reconciliation with the libs, I would say, okay, we could admit that you were right about the worst predictions you made about a Trump second term. I'll give you that. But then you have to give to us that we, meaning the left, broadly speaking, the Bernie left of 2016, and that's broadly speaking, you have to give to us that we were right all along about the fact that the Democrats were not positioned to stave off this fascist threat. Like, you have to give us that. You have to give us that we ignored the warning about why this was going to happen, and then we'll give you that, yeah, Trump in his second term is as bad as you guys advertised. I think that's a fair compromise.
I think it's fair,
to open up a conversation.
I think
now
so.
All I have to do is get invited onto Pod Save America.
Yeah, exactly.
And
right.
we can initiate that, reconciliation process.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I think it's true. It's that they helped enable the thing that they feared.
Of course.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. And they didn't want to hear any of that for 10 years, right? Until it was too late. Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. So I think we can potentially make some progress. Now we just have to get invited onto these shows. That's the hard part. That's the hard part, because they don't really want to talk or listen very much. But no, it is crazy. And now I do understand why the media hates Trump, because Trump makes them work really hard.
I know.
Like, since Trump has become president, it's been almost impossible to keep up with the news. Like, when Biden was president, there were like 10 to 12 stories per show that we had to choose from. Okay, you can narrow down 10 to 12 into 6 or 7 and make a show. Now it's like 30 or 40. It's he really makes you work too hard. So I understand why the media doesn't like it.
I mean, it requires, but at the same time, it also is like so easy for them because they're such insane over the top stories. Right. Whereas with Biden, it actually would take some work to like do some digging, because he wouldn't say, well, okay, there were times he would say things out loud, like lie about getting arrested visiting Nelson Mandela, really insane things like that. There was obviously the beheaded babies line that he kept repeating even after they were like, okay, no, he didn't actually see that, so he was insane and over the top like that. But a lot of his things just required more digging because they weren't as outrageous on their face.
Right. You had to like figure out why and how Jake Sullivan was lying about Israel, or as opposed to with this, it's like Kristi Noem just comes out over and over again and says the woman was driving right at the guy, so he had to shoot her 3 times in the head. It's like it's a different level of engagement that you have to go through every time. 100%. All right, well, let's get into some stories. Let's get into some of these stories. Let's knock some of these out. So the Israeli-American Council National Summit was this weekend. Katie, I want to thank you very much for making time for us, because I know you really wanted to be there for that.
I did, Between prepping for tomorrow's Monday morning, which, can I give a little plug for that?
Sure.
Because we don't compete on this one. Yeah. Tune in 10 a.m. every Monday. We have Monday morning, spelled MOURNING, which is when Aaron, Matt, and I go over the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. But besides prepping for that, for tomorrow, the thing I really wanted to do was be with my people, my mishpucha at the IAC.
Yeah. But, you made the sacrifice for us, because, you haven't forgotten where you came from.
Exactly.
That's the thing everybody says about you. You had a speaking slot lined up here, but you said, no, I'm going to do this tiny little podcast instead. So here are some of the speakers, a huge speaking roster. But of course, Miriam Adelson, the big headliner, as well as Haim Saban. Now, the question was broached to Miriam Adelson. How do you buy and exercise influence over politicians in the U.S.? That's an actual question. It's an actual question at the Israeli-American Council. Yeah, let's take a look at what she says here.
You and Sheldon created a lot of relationship over the years with politicians at the state level, especially at the federal level. I want you to share with everyone, why is it so important and how do you do it? Again, writing checks is part of it, but there is more than writing just checks. So how do you do it?
Can you allow me not to answer?
You choose.
Can you allow me not to answer?
I want to be truthful, and there are so many things that I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's like impressive, actually. It's almost like, what's that movie, Liar, Liar? Like,
Yeah, Liar, Liar. Yeah,
right?
the Jim Carrey movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Can she just not? Is she so honest that she can't actually answer that? I guess this is an audience she respects, right? She considers this like friendly ground. So she doesn't want to have to lie to all these people, or she doesn't want to say things that are untrue that'll get picked up. Like, I'm sure she'd be fine telling this friendly audience. She'd be fine being truthful to them. The problem is other people will see it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess she feels compelled to tell her people the real deal.
Right.
Well, we start with money that work 95% of time. Other 5%, we fly them out to island with nice party. We set up a camera.
It's not a big deal. Yes.
You know.
And what's so scary is that, like, we already, I mean, what is she not telling us, right? Because, like, we already know that she spent $106 million on her pro-Trump Preserve America super PAC.
I think it was more. I think it was like 200, right? Or something like that. Yeah.
Well, that was at least in 2024 alone. You're right. That's how much she spent. $106 million. And then there was also the millions giving during the previous campaign. And of course, what her late husband gave to Trump's failed campaign in 2020. So
it's got to be like $500 million when you add everything up. Yeah.
Right. But so what is she hiding? Jesus.
Well, let's see.
I mean, we don't want specific, but that's okay. But everyone should know here how important it is to get involved, because the reason that both of you were able to make huge differences is because you got involved. And you spent a lot of time and a lot of money on it, but you got involved and you cared. And that's what everyone here need to know. That
I like the way, by the way, how
doing
casually the guy is like party. What is it? Business on top, party at the bottom. Like, he's not wearing socks, and it looks like he's wearing kind of sneakers.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Kind of
that's
fun, right. He's not all business. He knows how to relax.
Yeah, he's got like the Larry David look. You know, Larry David would wear the high pants there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing is not going to get us anywhere, and you guys have done completely the opposite. So thank you both.
So he took the hint. It was like, okay, she doesn't want to talk about where the cameras are set up on Epstein Island, and she doesn't want to talk about Plan C, which is
exactly.
All right, let's go to the next guy. So here's Haim Saban, who, by the way, this guy owns the rights to the Power Rangers. It's a big show business guy. He's a composer, he's a producer, and so he's got his hooks in a lot of things. Let's see if he's a little more forthcoming.
Questions here about how important it is to get involved, to build a relationship with politicians, and to have access. And access and relationship can buy you influence, doesn't mean it's going to buy you. So you both master that. So can you share with us, I want everyone to learn today, how do you build a relationship with the politician? I know there is always money involved because that's part of the system, but the relationship is not always
He's
just
like, why are you asking me this?
Yeah.
Like, you already got called out by Miriam. How dare you?
Yeah, like take a hint. Like nobody told this putz that their tactics are supposed to be secret. Like it's like asking the CIA how they overthrow governments, right? So it's like asking Harry Houdini where the rabbit is, or something like that. It's like, I mean, come on, bad form.
It's about money, because you to have the access and to have the relationship to create an.
Did Houdini do rabbit tricks, or was he like the escape artist? Who was the escape artist?
I think he was the escape. I don't know.
He didn't do rabbits?
He got punched in the stomach. Didn't he die because he was punched in the stomach or something?
I don't know. It just thought to me. Maybe Houdini wasn't like a traditional magician.
Yeah.
I know David Blaine does the escape stuff. I don't know. Did Houdini chat? Maybe the chat will know. Did Houdini work with rabbits? I don't know.
Did Houdini dive? Yeah.
Influence, you need not just the money. So we have 4,000 people here. I want them to hear from the best. You and Miri.
It looks like she's clenching her
about
butt,
how do you do
nervous.
that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Miri and Sheldon Yeezy Baruch have been much more generous than me. So why don't you turn around and ask her that?
Ask her, but you both made a lot of connection. And
I already Yeah, I'll ask her. They're both. That's awkward,
My
man.
God, that's so
They're
awkward.
both. Doesn't matter. I don't want
He's
to
like,
say. You ask her.
can she embody the stereotype of Jews running everything behind the scenes instead of me? Because I would make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, the statute of limitations not up for me yet. For
Yes.
her, it is. Ask her. She talk first.
Made a big influence.
Now what I gave is this. This is what they gave is this.
Oh my God.
But it's the same principle. I understand what you're asking.
It's like the Seinfeld episode from Hell. You know, they're bickering over who has to answer the question about how much money they bribe politicians with.
Who controls more strings more forcefully? Yeah. Who's the real marionette? So embarrassing. Yeah.
It's
the last time this guy gets invited to host this.
I know.
I want to be cautious it's a system that we did not create.
Now he sounds like a
It's a
Marxist
system
or
that's
something.
Yeah,
It's like a super structural critique. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Place. It's a legal system.
Oh.
And we just play within the system.
Don't
And
hate
that's
the
it.
player, hate the game.
I mean, it's really quite simple. If you support a politician, you, under normal circumstances, should have access to be able to share opinions and try to help them see your point of view. That's what access grants you. And the contribution and the financial support grants you the access. So, I mean, those that give more have more access, and those that give less have less access. It's a simple math. Trust me.
Trust me, I know.
There you go. Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, putting on these events, I mean, we're going to get into the ADL thing next, but I don't know. Like, I feel like it's becoming more and more insular. Maybe that's why this question was asked. They seem to just care less and less and less about how they come off.
Right.
These guys were a little nervous because they didn't want to incriminate themselves. I mean, you're basically asking, how do you do the kind of corruption that you do? Right. Because public opinion has so obviously turned against Israel. How is it that doesn't matter? That's basically what he's asking. Okay, how is it that most of the country hates Israel now, but every single politician, almost to a person in Washington, does your bidding? How do you guys make that happen? That's basically what he's asking them to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're just embarrassed because they're kind of like, everyone knows the answer to this. Why are you putting us on the spot and asking us stuff where we could get follow-up questions? What are you doing? You're like airing dirty laundry, and everyone in this room knows how it works. So why the hell would you need to ask us anyway? But it really is. It's like, can you please do anti-Semitism in real time? Like is what he's asking.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And when we get into the ADL piece next, we'll get into this a bit more. But this is why they are so openly forceful about just imposing their views on people, because I think they understand that they can't just win an argument on the merits anymore.
Right. But it also speaks to the fact that they are so protected by the shared values discourse that exists when it comes to Israel and the United States. Because imagine if this were like a Russian-American coalition, something that doesn't exist, right? Like imagine someone being asked about how they are so effective at moving American politicians to do things that help Russia.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you would never, or really, like just about any other country.
Yeah.
For that matter.
Yeah. Right. Also, Miriam Adelson has this funny, like weird hippie vibe to her that sometimes you'll find this. It's weird. Israel is so weird that you'll have these absolute fascists who have like a hippie vibe to them. She kind of has like a Tom Petty vibe to her.
Tom Petty. It's funny.
Yeah.
I always thought she looked like a character from a Rob Zombie movie, but I don't know if you watch those. Do you watch those?
I know of them. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. If you look at a movie like The Devil's Reject, she kind of looks like a sort of psychedelic creation of Rob Zombie's mind, I think, which is much more fitting for her.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do Tom Petty dirty like that. He did nothing wrong, but yeah.
Tom Petty did nothing wrong, as we say. So let's take a look at this video here. This is Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, saying every anti-Semitism complaint filed with the ADL is now immediately scanned by their AI systems to see if there is a litigation opportunity they can forward to their network of some 50,000 lawyers.
Again,
in
it's
partnership
like
with Gibson Dunn.
Go ahead.
No, it's like this week in Zionist Jews doing anti-Semitism.
Oh yeah, no, of
Like
course.
we control the world through. It was like when Henning, what's that guy's name? Henning Magen. He's like a big Israeli, like he's this queer Mizrahi.
Mazig, is that his
Yes,
name?
Yeah. He was like, look how far we've come. We've like made it in Hollywood. Finally. People are like, yeah, wow, what a breakthrough. But these people are just so ridiculous. And it's like, okay, so we run politicians. We're a bunch of lawyers. We're super litigious. You can't do anything that makes us mad or we'll go after you. All of these things that they're just happy to bring to the forefront because two things. One is they don't actually care about anti-Semitism, and kind of more significantly, they need anti-Semitism to justify their existence. And their goal is not about keeping Jews safe, obviously.
Of course.
So last year, in partnership with Gibson Dunn, we created something called the Legal Action Network. We've assembled 50 of the top law firms in the United States to create a pro bono coterie of literally like 50,000 lawyers. And so now when you enter in an incident at ADL, it instantly gets evaluated by our AI systems. Is there a litigation opportunity? And we feed it to the lawyers to evaluate and to find someone to take the case.
Someone put ketchup on your hot dog, submit it to our AI scanning system, and we will evaluate
opening it
that
up. We've
for
opened it up to
anti-Semitism.
Brandeis Center, Stand With Us, and to other great groups. So what gives me hope that we can break this paradigm? Number one, innovating and finding new ways to get ahead of the curve. Number two, creating new partnerships like with the top law firms and partnerships with other Jewish groups. And then thirdly, again, applying our brains. So it used to be that, again, if you had a problem, you picked up the phone and called ADL, and it took us days and days to get back to you. Remember I told you 31,000 reports? Now using generative AI, I am responding instantly. And if you enter that something happened to you, for example, say your kid got bullied at or your kid had a teacher at middle school, a social studies teacher, who again, this oppressed craziness, and held out your kid, you enter it in, and our Gen AI can literally on the spot.
So if they teach oppressed craziness, that's anti-Semitism, unless the oppressor are the Nazis and the oppressed are the Jews. Like if they teach the Holocaust, then that's okay, right?
Well, yeah, but
any other dynamic like that is anti-Semitic.
Right, as we know from Sarah Hurwitz, right? They dropped the ball, they messed it up. Holocaust education really messed up because they made it. Some people who believe in Holocaust education, they stupidly thought the takeaway was that genocide is bad for anyone. Killing people is bad no matter who it happens to. And she was very upset. Remember Sarah Hurwitz, who worked for Obama? She was so upset that the takeaway for some people was that, maybe Israelis shouldn't be doing things that are similar to the Nazis. That was not what you were supposed to take away.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's what he means.
Generate a letter for you to send to LAUSD that will automatically, okay, this is the chairman of the board of education. This is the superintendent of schools. This is the name of the principal of that specific school. We'll generate the letter real time and send it out for you. And at the same time, launch a petition. That we
Look at the
push
guy
to
next to him, his face, his expression. He's
so we are using tech and innovation to find
this is
new
too much
instant
even
ways
for
again
him.
to try to break that paradigm once and for all.
Yeah, I mean, you're combining an ancient trope about Jews controlling the world with like futuristic dystopian technology.
Right.
Like you're
Yeah, it's like
literally
the Minority Report. Minority Report? What is it?
Minority Report.
Oh, yeah, Minority Report, yeah.
I mean, probably.
No, not like Sam Cedar, yeah.
Yeah, I mean him too. While we're at it, but yeah, but I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how shameless. I mean, they've really gone from being, I think, like 20% manipulation, or I should say, 80% manipulation, 20% intimidation, to the opposite. It seems like now they have flipped, where now the thrust of their strategy is just to strong arm people. Like, you know what? All right, if we can't convince you not to hate Israel, then we're just going to convince you that you're better off shutting the fuck up about how much you hate Israel. Because if you say anything at any time, we have our eyes and ears everywhere. And now we have robots processing claims at breakneck speed, where we will just come after you. It's basically now just shut up. Like I feel like they're not even focused on.
You said great neck speed. It's a very Jewish neighborhood and the very Jewish area of Long Island. Great neck speed. Sorry.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Did I say breakneck? It
you
sound
said
like
breakneck, but I think yeah. You corrected yourself.
That could be a Freudian slip. Yeah,
exactly,
great neck speed. Exactly. But no, I mean that seems to be their tactic now. It's almost like an admission that they've lost the argument, that they've lost the propaganda war. And so now their tactic is just to strong arm you into being silent.
Right. And you know, they're so desperate that they have to pretend that groups like Jewish Voice for Peace are, again, it's not like Students for Justice in Palestine. They're not anti-Semitic either. But I think it's especially ridiculous when you accuse like Jewish Voice for Peace of being anti-Semitic, but they consider them an anti-Semitic hate group.
Of course.
So when they're talking about all these incidents of anti-Semitism that are coming in, a lot of those incidences are going to be like, oh, there's a protest being arranged by Jewish Voice for Peace. Or, oh, there's like a teach-in about Zionism. You know, that is for them, you know, the Kristallnacht for these people.
Right.
And there's a really great movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Defamation. It's about the ADL and a guy, an Israeli guy. It's really good. An Israeli filmmaker, Israeli Jewish filmmaker goes to the States and wants to look into what the ADL looks into when they are battling anti-Semitism. And this is way before this is way before October 7th. I think it's probably like 15 years old. Someone can look it up, but Defamation. And, you know, the things that they call in as anti-Semitic, it's like, you know, he keeps pressing them for examples of anti-Semitism. And they're like, oh, here's one. Here's a recent report. A security guard said that he couldn't wait to leave this Jewish that he was at. He wanted to go home. He was tired. He was working at this Jewish thing. He was at like a Jewish funeral. And that was his description of that to like a friend was a big example of anti-Semitism. He was basically complaining about working, that he was providing security. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I remember because the FBI had a dust up with the ADL earlier this year where they accused them of like going after conservative groups. And so then the ADL took off their website, their like commitment to protecting civil rights. So now it's just basically all about sniffing out anti-Semitism.
Exactly.
On behalf of the Israeli state. I mean, that's basically all it exists for. Now,
right. And it's not even anti-Semitism, right? It's anti-Zionism.
Of course. But it doesn't end there. So this just broke. This just came across my feed right before we went on. So I'm just going to screen share this from Twitter. Speaking of using the legal system to go after quote unquote anti-Semites, here's Attorney General Pam Bondi, after being introduced by Miriam Adelson at the Israeli American Council, how the DOJ is working for them by suing anti-Israel protesters under the FACE Act for the first time and extracting giant anti-Semitism settlements out of universities. So let's take a look at this.
Under her leadership, the Department of Justice has made combating anti-Semitism a top priority, especially in response to the alarming rise in incidents following October 7. She brings moral clarity, resolve, and an unwavering commitment to justice to this critical fight. Please welcome my friend, the 87th Attorney General of the United States, Pamela Bondi.
Pamela Bondi.
She's so happy. She's always so miserable.
Miriam Adelson,
except when she's
is
around
amazing.
Miriam.
What she has done for Israel, for our country, and for this world is second to none. Thank you, my friend. The sad truth is, for way too long, anti-Semitism has been allowed to grow unchecked in this country.
We will find you.
Too many institutions have abdicated their moral responsibility to speak up. Too many so-called leaders have stayed quiet. Actions have consequences, and inaction has consequences too.
I don't know what she means by action because, of course, actions have consequences, but like the whole point of having a First Amendment is that speech by itself is not supposed to have like legal consequences. Like there are certain carve outs to that, but generally speaking, broadly speaking, speech is protected. You're supposed to be able to express your opinion without legal consequence, as long as you are simply expressing an opinion. You can't direct violence at somebody and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously, like the kind of stuff they're talking about here is not an action. That's the whole point of the First Amendment, that words are not actions.
Right. Well, obviously, these people are totally fine with. And when I say these people, it's so nice when you have all these Christian Zionists because you don't have to worry about sounding anti-Semitic. Obviously, these people includes Bondi, so we're talking about Christian Zionists too. But these people are fine with kind of admitting that that the First Amendment can be an inconvenience.
Of course.
We've sued violent protesters under the FACE Act for intimidating Jewish Americans worshiping at synagogues. This is the first time.
What violent act took place at or around a
I'll tell you what it was.
synagogue?
It's literally nothing. I mean, the only thing is that, and this is what's so deviant about holding these real estate sales at synagogues. You guys have talked about this, right?
Sure, of course.
So they're going to, I don't know if they've used the FACE Act against this yet, but I know that Kathy Hochul, who just gave her State of the State, the New York governor, basically announced that they're going to be using that to go after people who are protesting synagogues, who are doing these land sales. So again, there's no violence. We would know about violence. There's been no violent attacks except for Christian right anti-Semites, like that guy who just set fire to the Mississippi synagogue.
Oh, right.
Like we would know about anti-Semitic attacks on synagogues where people were praying, and there haven't been any committed. To clarify, there haven't been any committed by pro-Palestine people. So it's just she's obviously talking about the violence of cheering, I guess, or saying things. It's also so funny because these people become so woke and like intersectional when they talk about violence they're not talking about literal violence, and that's not usually something that the right wing talks about, right? That's like the right wing would accuse people who use violence to describe stuff that's not physical of being snowflakes.
Absolutely.
But for these people, violence is saying things critical of land theft.
Yeah, I mean that's the irony of it, is that for years it was the sort of woke libs who would equate words with violence, right? That was the whole safe space thing that the right made such hay out of, for years and years. God knows how much content these people created out of that. And now they turn it right around. And if you're chanting against illegal land sales at synagogues, then that's violence. That's violence. Words are violence now.
Since its passage, the FACE Act in 1994, that it has been used to protect a house of worship. Working with Secretary Linda McMahon, who has been a champion for you as well, and Harmeet, we have secured a $200 million settlement with Columbia University for violating the civil rights of Jewish students.
Yeah, the Jewish students whose rights were violated were the anti-Zionist ones. Like they were the ones who got kicked out. They were the ones who got attacked by police. They were the ones who got chemicals thrown at them. I mean, of course, Palestinian or non-Palestinian, non-Jewish people too, but the ones that happened to be Jewish were the ones who were protesting Israel. Those were the ones who were victimized.
Of course, and had job letters rescinded from them. That's why they had to wear masks while they were out there, because they didn't want their faces to be seen and be run through the ADL's new AI system. No, it's just absolutely upside down. And throughout all of those protests, again, was there one complaint of a violent incident perpetrated by any of those protesters? None.
No, I mean, they would refer to them, but they would refer to them, but they didn't actually happen, right? There was like no evidence of them happening. They would just say it as if like saying it is enough.
No, just extraordinary. Yeah. Extraordinary. So Adam, in response to the ADL video, says, "This is the most Zionist thing I've ever heard."
I know. It's so embarrassing.
And Glenn Greenwald says essentially what we said at the beginning, which is, I'd say that if you're actually worried about anti-Semitism, It's probably a bad idea to announce to Americans that you have developed AI tech to monitor American speech about Israel and Jews, and you have a mega network of 50,000 lawyers ready to sue them for free. Exactly. But as you said earlier, Dustin Templeton, they want actual anti-Semitism. This guy is out of a job without it. To which Glenn responds, yes, most of these identity politics victims group need to exaggerate or even create the bigotry they claim they're fighting because they have no purpose or function unless they can scare the shit out of everyone and spread neurosis. And yes, this is a common critique of like liberal activist organizations that, you know, they will sort of push certain cultural issues past the point where they have majority support in order to create a fringe that invites a backlash, which justifies more activism. Well, that's exactly what these people are doing here. They function the exact same way. I mean, there's no difference whatsoever.
Yeah, it is really, I mean, it's stunning that these people don't realize, but they do realize it, like we're saying, yeah.
Of course. Of course.
Oh, by the way, I forgot that I just remembered this. Like, I think Adelson, going back to Miriam Adelson, she had, I think she once said that Trump deserved a book of Trump in the Bible because of his support for Israel.
Is that right? I never heard that one.
Yeah.
I never heard that one. A book of Trump in the Bible. Yeah. George Gunnell says not watching CBS is anti-Semitic. That's right. That's right. Thank you, George. Lorian Brightbill says get Katie to spank us for not liking the show enough. Nobody does it better.
Oh yeah, guys, how many of you have liked it? How many of you have liked it so far?
Is that
what
a
are
thing?
The numbers like? Liking the stream? Oh yeah, I chide people into liking it.
You chide people. Do you spank people, or was that sexual
yeah.
harassment from my super chatter? I apologize if
it's okay. No, it's fine. This is a safe. I consent to that joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't read them beforehand. We don't have a screener to screen out
me neither. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You guys in the chat, control yourselves.
But she did say she wanted a book of Trump. She said, "Would it be too much to pray for a day when the Bible gets a book of Trump, much like it is a book of Esther?"
Oh. Okay. Wow. Yeah. See, that's a pretty good Miriam Adelson.
Thanks. She actually wrote that in a column at the Las Vegas Review.
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah. She wrote a piece arguing for a book of Trump in the Bible. Yeah.
Wow. Well, money well spent.
Yeah.
What work did Russ get in Bangkok? Looks good though. Ha. Good one. Bonzo Kilborn. Can't stay. Game is on. I need my bread and circus. Here's $5 Hi, Katie. Big hugs. Not in the creepy way. Unless you like that. See, look at what a bunch of animals.
Yeah.
A bunch of animals in the chat. All right. See, this is why we need this. This is why two men host the show. This is why men dominate the podcast space.
This is what Russell said, that you guys do an anti-Semitism colonic on your show. And this is like the sexism colonic.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Jesus Christ. Guys are embarrassing. All right, let's move right on along. I don't know if you saw this, but this is you know, just talk about just overt hostility from Yuri Israel. Moral of the story: you F with Jews, you lose. So this was a brag. This is an own. This is overhead footage of Gaza before and after. So from January 2024 to September 2025, June 2023 to December 2023. He's very, very proud of this. If you look at this graphic, you could just see just absolute devastation. I mean, look at this one. October 2023 to April 2024.
Who even did these, I wonder? Like, you know, it's probably one of those things that like a human rights organization that is documenting Israel's crimes made. But these are, I don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is what it's from. But these are such ghouls that they use it for propaganda to make the opposite point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you would think. Because this is the point that they're making. But you know, they're arrogant enough to see this as a real own, as a don't fuck with us. I mean, the whole ethos of Zionism is celebration of conquest through violence and through bloodshed. They see this as a strength. They see restraint as weakness. So it's totally consistent with the way they view things. And Max Blumenthal posts here a useful reminder of what the collective West supported as it wags a blood-stained finger at Iran. And this is something that I noticed a lot. We did a whole segment on this on the last show, but you just interviewed Professor Marandi from Iran about the protests. And so I wanted to get your opinion on this. As we see here, Mark Levin unironically says that this is genocide. Like
Right.
the same people who spent 2.5 years denying the genocide that we just saw in that graphic that they brag about are actually floating that there is a massacre on a similar scale happening in Iran right now. You saw Glenn Greenwald go back and forth with that Iranian propagandist on Piers Morgan, where she said it could be that as many civilians died in Iran over the past few days as have died in Gaza over the past few years. So this is from Al Jazeera. This is a week old, so this number must be higher now.
Right.
Iran says over 100 officers killed as protesters defy government crackdown. What you have here is pretty clearly a color revolution, an attempted coup of the Iranian government. You have the Mossad tweeting out that they are on the
literally.
ground, like just naked admissions of agitation.
Yeah.
And yet the people who denied a genocide for 2.5 years seem to think they can say with a straight face that what the Iranian government is doing to protesters is comparable to what the Israelis did to Palestinians in Gaza. What's your response to that? And if you want to get into your recent interview, which you just did yesterday, I'd like to hear about that a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple things to say. One is that they're so stupid, these people who throw around the world genocide, because literally they just point to numbers of dead and claim that that is proof of genocide. And there are a couple things. One is we don't know the numbers. The other thing is that a lot of the people killed are people who were killed by the protesters, right? Like those are some of the people who've been killed. Those are some of the numbers that have been collected. And I'm not going to do that thing that like all of the protesters were violent outside agitators, because that isn't true. But we do know that there is a lot of outside support. There's a lot of infiltration. And that there's been a lot of violence towards not just like the police, but also, there's an old man who you see video of an old man whose car is set on fire. There was a nurse who died. She was like burned to death in a clinic. But the thing that is so striking to me is that these people respond to human rights experts who painstakingly lay out why what's happening in Gaza is a genocide, because there's like 5 criteria for a genocide. And you have people who are human rights lawyers and they make the claim and they lay it out. And then you have these absolute idiots who come back and say, oh, if it's genocide, then why is the population growing? As if that's an own. Anyone who says that ever, all they're showing us is that they have no idea what the definition of genocide is, because that has nothing to do with genocide. So it's actually helpful. Every time someone says something stupid like that, it's like, okay, good. They just outed themselves as a total idiot. They have no place in the conversation about something like genocide. So again, these people, if Mark Levin says something's genocide, he's full of shit. Whoever says it's genocide is basically full of shit, because it would require doing some investigation, which these people obviously haven't done. And, something that Craig McIver, the human rights lawyer, has pointed out is that Israel, part of the reason the case against Israel was such a slam dunk is that they are so coddled and entitled and are so used to impunity that they would say things out loud that other governments wouldn't say out loud because they were afraid of being accused of genocide. But they say the quiet part out loud. So that's why it was so easy. We're going to treat they're human animals and we'll treat them as such. There are no innocent, this whole rhetoric about civilians. No, that doesn't exist. So the first quote was Gallant, the defense minister. Then President Isaac Herzog was the one who talked about this whole discourse about innocent civilians. No, basically his point was like they voted for Hamas, so they're all guilty. So it just, these people aren't serious. Anyone who wants to seriously talk about whether there's a genocide in Iran, anyone who says that there isn't a genocide in Gaza, don't waste your time engaging with them, because they're bad faith actors and they have no idea what they're talking about. These people are as smart as the people who say, why don't you talk about Sudan? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It must be crazy to just observe how the propaganda repeats. I mean, I was 16 when the Iraq War started, and I remember all of it sounding very, very similar to the way the propagandists are trying to manufacture consent for regime change in Iran or even Venezuela, to the point where like they're calling fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. Like it's just it's so it's just so insane to watch the same story get told again. And as much as people spent the last 20 years insisting they weren't going to fall for it again, they're still trying to get people to bite at this. It's really kind of crazy.
It's funny that you brought up manufactured consent, because there's a guy who's such a scold. I don't even remember his name, but he's he's one of these like holier than thou guys on Iran, and he's Iranian, and he I think he even wrote a book called like What Iran Wants, or What Iranians Want, which is, I don't think they're a monolith, but he actually tweeted the other day about how stupid manufactured consent is, how stupid it is to use that term. And then someone pushed back and he was like, well, I actually haven't read the whole book.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. And anyway, but again, people like to pretend that that this is, that there's so much nuance. And yeah, there is nuance to some extent, but what's not nuanced is like, what does our government want to do? What should it be doing? What should the citizens of the United States be doing when its government is claiming to care about human rights in another country? If it cares about human rights and they want to do something that supports something, we would know if they actually cared about human rights, because they would be acting totally differently from the way that they do in every single situation. Like the United States government hasn't done the right thing in terms of foreign policy, since World War II. Like, how many times do you have to get it wrong before we know that what we're doing and what we're praising is not genuine, it's not sincere? And so I think regardless of what you think of the regime in Iran, and what's so rich to me is when you have people who hate Trump, but they're like, oh, but on this he's right. Like, how does that work? On this he's right?
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I mean, that's a great segue. I want to play this. I want to play Sam Harris saying exactly that, how he hates Trump, but he has to admit he's really crushing it on foreign policy.
They despise Trump and Trumpism and 95% of what he's been about as president. But I can readily admit that some things he's done have been good. And one of the things is to be fairly uncompromising with respect to defending open societies and Israel.
I call him a racist and a xenophobe all the time, but when he's racist and xenophobic against Muslims, I like that, because I also hate Muslims. So there's overlap there. You see how that works?
Against this specific species of enemy, which is, the global jihadism and the culture that
he loves to pretend he's so smart. He has no idea what he's talking about with global jihadism. Like, he doesn't understand the various ideologies that exist in Iran, what exists in with Hezbollah, what exists with Hamas. For this guy, they're all like one monolith. And he has no idea what he's talking about. And, jihadism and globalism, he just sounds like such an insane ignoramus who's pretending to be smart and nuanced. It's like all these guys who are scratch a new atheists, and they're just like often Jewish supremacists, anti-Islam people.
Well, yeah, because they intentionally hit on the most reductive aspect of the issue. And that casts a very broad net of stupid people who want to feel smart, right? So it's easy to just frame everything through this clash of civilizations lens. That's what Bill Maher always reverts to whenever this comes up. He doesn't even engage with the news in terms of like, hey, there's supposed to be a ceasefire and you continue to bomb people. What's up with that? No, everything he just frames as broadly as possible as, well, Israel is liberal and Western, and so they value life, and the Palestinians are a religious death cult, and then so like no matter what the details are, that sort of clash of civilizations framing allows them to take Israel's side. And it's just it's such a waste of a brain. Harris seems like a fucking idiot. He seems like a fake. He seems like a poser. But like a guy like Christopher Hitchens actually had a brain on him. And it was such a waste of a brain to spend the last like 10 years of his life doing this.
Well, he did say if he started to talk about believing in God, he was like, if I ever say I believe in God, then you'll know it's the brain cancer. So maybe that was early brain cancer symptoms. But no, that was terrible what he did, because he was so good on so many other issues. But yeah, he had a clash of civilizations kind of what's it called? A little bit of a Trotskyist Clash of Civilizations framing.
Well, he was a Trotskyist, yeah.
So
And our friend Caleb Maupin wrote this whole book about the sort of Trotskyist to neocon pipeline.
they're
A lot of these
terrible.
Trotskyists ended up sort of giving up on the hope of socialist revolution. And so they started to believe that, I guess, the United States military was an actual vehicle for artificial revolutions elsewhere and could be this force for good. But it's obviously completely diluted.
And, all these people who claim to care about women's rights, let me know when you're speaking out against sanctions, which disproportionately harm women.
Of course.
That's the big thing. Like, that's the big tell. If anyone actually cared about human rights, they would be speaking out and would have been speaking out against murderous sanctions, which really do kill people. It's not just uncomfortable and awkward and stressful. Like, you're denied medication, you will die.
Right. Of course.
So that's just it. Again, if I don't take anyone seriously who doesn't oppose and speak out against sanctions, which have an impact on the very people who they claim to care about.
Absolutely. Let's hear a little more from him.
Supports it. And, the variant in Iran that has been, a genuine tyranny for, nearly as long as you and I have been alive, since 1979, is something that we have always, we should have always supported the uprisings against. I think it's scandalous how mealy-mouthed Obama and Biden were on that front. I mean, the Iranians have been showing a lot of courage, especially Iranian women, periodically to try to fight for their political equality.
They've been trying to overthrow the government for 47 years. It's not at all that these protests are propped up with foreign support like the Mossad, who tweet out that they're on the ground there. Again, just deliberately learning as little as possible about what's actually going on and just taking at face value this idea that this is an organic uprising, just like the Arab Springs under Obama were supposedly organic uprisings, never bothering to check underneath the hood of any of that. And then this guy will in the next breath saying, I think Iraq was a mistake. Well, why? Like, if you believe in this regime change, why wouldn't you believe in the other one?
Yeah. And by the way, just another reminder, this came up with Professor Morandi, which is that when you just referred to Mossad taking credit, there's also Channel 14, a guy at Channel 14, which is this big Israeli news channel. Well, we reported tonight on Channel 14, foreign actors are arming the protesters in Iran with live firearms, which is the reason for hundreds of regime personnel deaths or something. I can't read the bottom of the tweet, but it is so embarrassing that you have people who are supporters of regime change being like, can you not say this part out loud?
Right.
Can you just keep it to yourselves? Like, we know that this is happening, but it's not very helpful for us for you to say that.
Well, Israel is hoping that these protesters get as far as they can. Apparently, Netanyahu was against Trump bombing Iran because they were afraid of backlash. So they're trying to do it this way. They were going to try to do it one way or another. It was never, in my mind, a possibility that Israel was just going to call it a day after that 12-day war and be like, all right, well, I guess we'll wait another 23 years. Like, they've been wanting to displace the Iranian government since 9/11. Wesley Clark, in that famous viral video, said, I got a list after 9/11 of 7 Muslim countries that we wanted to overthrow. Iran is the only one left standing. And of course, this is Miriam Adelson's $200 million man here. Like, they're not going to let these 4 years go until they get what they want. And they're going to do absolutely everything they can in order to do it.
Yeah, it's funny because I also imagine that this, Sam Harris probably would be upset about the attacks on synagogues, which, as we know and we just went over, are not actually violent. But I'm sure he's A-okay with the burning downs of mosques that's been happening in Iran.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. All right. So we got time for one more segment with you, Katie. We will get 2 more super chats and Rumble rants in a little bit, but I got time for one more with Katie because then we have another our next guest, Kyle Anzalone, coming up soon. But this one I really wanted to do with you. Gavin Newsom is on his groveling to right-wingers tour, which he uses his podcast for. And Ben Shapiro is the next guy who gets to manhandle him for some reason. Gavin Newsom says, I don't share that opinion as it pertains to genocide in Gaza. I do not agree with that notion. Now, believe it or not, Gavin Newsom, even though he's a sitting governor of a state, when we showed his clip a few months back, it actually got copyright claimed and the video got taken down. So we have to do audio only. It's kind of crazy how a sitting governor should be allowed to copyright protect their podcast. I mean, this is I mean, your podcast is a political program by someone who's in office.
Bizarre. Yeah.
Very
that sounds
bizarre.
Like Trumpy.
Yeah, it is. It is a very, very Trumpy thing to do.
Oh, by the way, I don't think we played the full Sam Harris clip, but one of my favorite parts, and then we'll focus on this one because this is probably the worst of all the ones that we're watching tonight.
Yeah.
But he did criticize. He said that he thought Trump wasn't good for Israel necessarily. I think he said like his criticism of Trump vis-a-vis Israel is that he worried about how Trump would be for Israel because he's corrupt.
Oh,
you know who else is corrupt? Benjamin fucking Netanyahu. Like, how's that working out? I mean, even like people who like him because he kills Palestinians think he's corrupt. Like there were protests in the streets over judicial overhaul.
Yeah, no, he was afraid that Trump wasn't pure enough for Israel.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess his mind is at ease now.
Yes, exactly.
But here is Benjamin. Here's Benjamin Shapiro. Manhandling Gavin Newsom, browbeating him into supporting Israel.
Now been dragged into this conversation, some run with flags waving into the conversation.
This notion of genocide.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Israel did not commit a genocide in Gaza. There is no standard by which Israel committed a genocide in Gaza, just on a factual level.
Actually, there's every standard.
Yeah,
every single
exactly.
standard.
On a factual level, it is. Yes, right. So actually, Ben, I mean, I don't even know someone like Ben is so dumb and ignorant and dishonest that I don't know if he doesn't believe it, if he knows it's a genocide and is lying about it. But whatever. Obviously, anyone who takes international humanitarian law seriously knows that it is supported and that there is consensus among every single credible human rights organization. And if you're someone who insists that only anti-Semites call it genocide, then you have to deal with the fact that B'Tselem, which I guess is a cabal of self-loathing Jews in Israel, that human rights organization also calls it genocide. Again, I don't want to do that thing where we're elevating Jewish voices over non-Jewish voices because that's absurd. But it is, I think, a useful thing to point out that it's not anti-Semitic. And it's just so ridiculous. It's one thing to say it's inaccurate to say it's a genocide, but to actually claim it's anti-Semitic to say it's a genocide is just another, it's like even worse. But again, it is genocide. These people don't at all engage in what the definition of genocide is because they don't care. So, but also what's so embarrassing about this one, Keaton, is like, I literally thought that this was Ben Shapiro show because as he said, like, like he manhandles him. Like this is Gavin Newsom.
No, it's Gavin Newsom's own show.
I know.
Yeah.
It took me a while. I was like, wait, why because there's like, we're not showing it, right? Because of the copyright stuff. But like in the corner, there's a neon sign that says Gavin Newsom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, I guess Ben Shapiro, for each guest, he puts a neon sign with their name. And then I was like,
on Ben Shapiro's show.
It's actually Gavin Newsom's. Yeah, it's pathetic.
Yeah, even now that we were just showing the stills for copyright, you could see on the microphone it has the Gavin Newsom podcast logo on it. Yeah, no, I'm able to Google this within 20 seconds because I've Googled it so many times. You could just pull up. See, but again, these people will openly state that there's no such thing as international law, so I guess it's pointless to cite it. But Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. That overhead video that we just showed here, there. I mean, what else do you want? Right there.
Right, exactly.
Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, i.e. bombing every hospital, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. That's the one they haven't completed yet, but they're working on it.
Right.
So they're 4.5 out of 5 ways there. Every single condition it satisfies. So actually,
not
as a matter of fact, they have. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only do they bomb hospitals, but they actually target fertility centers. there's a whole other word called repricide, which is like a part of this genocide. And they also commit that because they're not sufficiently evil. So they actually go after places like holding embryos, frozen embryos.
Right.
And the other thing that is mind-boggling is that people ranging from not just human rights lawyers, but you have like genocide scholars from Israel, like Raz Siegel, Omar Bartov. And Omar Bartov is interesting because he at first did not say it was a genocide. So it's that much more significant that he thinks it is. You have Aryeh Nair, who is a Jewish, born in Germany. His family fled the Holocaust. He is the founder of Human Rights Watch, co-founder, one of the founders of Human Rights Watch. And he says it's a genocide. So, but the point is like, we're wasting our breath because these people don't actually care about the consensus, the scholarship. They just are using it as a talking point. But anyway, back to the Ben Shapiro show. I mean, the Gavin Newsom.
The Gavin Newsom show.
Did not commit a genocide in Gaza. There is no standard by which Israel committed a genocide in Gaza, just on a factual level.
Just as a legal and factual level.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your opinion of this?
My opinion is I understand the tendency for people to make that, to assert that.
Why?
On the basis of the images and the proportionality.
No, we're not asserting it on the basis of the images. I mean, the images are horrible, but we're not asserting that on the basis of the images. I just read the 5
definition.
points.
Yeah,
Yes.
the legal definition of genocide. And by the way, genocide was a term developed by Jewish scholar Carl Lemkin after the Holocaust. And the Lemkin Institute has said it's genocide.
It doesn't mean genocide.
No. And by the way, I agree with you.
And international
and
proportionality
proportionality
doesn't mean that if you kill my child and I then kill 7 criminals, that I've been disproportionate.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think but I understand that tendency on the basis of trying to reconcile the proportionate nature of how the war was ultimately conducted and the devastation.
I have a question. Why
is he talking about them like they're these irrational people who are doing this based on their feelings when literally this guy is so dumb, Gavin Newsom, or he's such a coward, probably more likely. Like he's acting like he's being the adult in the room. Like,
of course.
Yeah, of course it's not genocide, but you understand the tendency. People are emotional and there are all these kids dying. No, it's not about that. I mean, yes, it's true. If you have a heart, you will be disturbed by what's happening. But to be fair, being disturbed by something does not a genocide make. Now, it is both disturbing and a genocide because of the very definition. It's not about your feelings. Like, sorry, Ben Shapiro, and also sorry, Gavin Newsom. This isn't like a feeling or an opinion thing. This is a definition. Also, I'm going to call him out again. Ben Shapiro, you are a coward. Why do you wear a yarmulke that is so close to your hair color?
I know. Sometimes you can't even see it. Sometimes you can't even see it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It's almost like facts don't care about feelings.
Exactly.
It's almost like that.
To create a permission structure for that sort of stuff. I mean, meaning it's not true.
Yeah.
Why not just say it's not true?
Yeah, look, I don't know the definition, or I don't know the legal.
Okay, so why don't you say you can't opine on this if you don't know the legal definition of it?
That's amazing. You don't know the legal definition of genocide. So you want to run for president at a time when most of your base is convinced, rightfully so, because it's true, that our number one ally has just committed a genocide, and you haven't bothered to look up the definition of genocide. You think you're going to get away with this like patronizing bullshit? Well, I understand how you feel,
Right.
I understand how you feel, but I'm gonna kowtow to Ben Shapiro on my podcast because that's the way to the base is hard.
It's not my opinion, so I don't share that opinion as it relates to genocide. I do not agree with that notion. But
you do understand that if you accuse...
How can you not agree with the notion of it's being a genocide if you just admitted you don't know what the definition of genocide is? And that is really the only way you can answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. He just admitted he doesn't know what a genocide is. Again, this is the guy... First of all, if you want to be president of the United States, you should know what genocide is. I mean, you would think if you're going to be chief executive and of the country and commander in chief of this imperial army, you'd think you would want to learn what the definition of genocide is. That seems like relevant knowledge to have. I mean, it's kind of an astounding admission that you haven't read the definition of genocide.
And
that's pretty extraordinary.
I mean, it's almost. I would prefer it if he was just like, I don't know, because I don't know what the definition of genocide is. But there's something especially bad about the combination of saying, no, it's not a genocide, the thing that I don't know how to define, but I'm going to tell you it's not one.
Yeah, of course.
Israel of committing a genocide, that now puts Israel in the position of it should be a pariah state, because states that commit genocide should be pariah states.
Yeah.
So granting legitimacy to that position inherently.
I'm not granting
delegitimises.
legitimacy. I'm just saying the devastation in Gaza, that at the human level, you've got 4 kids.
Of course, it's terrible.
No, but I think it's also important to absorb that a little bit more. Just as it was sick, and we were clear in our condemnation, these people like me, as it relates to what Hamas did in that act of barbarism and terrorism.
Yeah, but there's
that
no
was
difference
crystal
between
clear. That's a
deliberate
red line.
terrorism and.
But you seem a lot clearer in your condemnation of that than you do in the mass slaughter of tens of thousands of innocent people. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I mean, it's so wormy and it's so slimy. I feel like he's playing, yesterday's game. Like when he first started this podcast in January of last year, the idea was, well, the Democrats ate shit in 2024. And so we have to figure out how to get the MAGA people back on our side. So, he started interviewing these right-wing people. He had Michael Savage on the show. He had some other big right-wing guy. Who was the first guest? I think Charlie Kirk was actually the first guest, come to think of it. So this has been like the whole shtick of the show for the last year. But you're taking it to an especially odious level with a guy like Ben Shapiro, who is an Israel first actor. I mean, this is what he is.
Yeah, and it's right. I mean, this guy, he should not be, it's one thing to be talking to a liberal Zionist or something. This guy is an absolutely hateful troll of a person. Why is he even reaching out to him at all?
Of course.
Wartime collateral damage, of course. And if we refuse to acknowledge that reality.
So now he's telling him, so the difference is that you have intentional terrorism on the part of Hamas versus wartime collateral damage on the part of Israel. I mean, how can anyone listen to that and keep nodding and saying, yeah, and agreeing with them when they're spouting the most obviously dishonest statements?
They're bragging about having leveled the play. That's not collateral damage. No fair-minded person looks at this and says, well, that's just collateral damage. It's absurd.
Collateral damage. I have stronger opinions. It wasn't just collateral. I think
I had you all wrong.
Some of the double tapping issues. I have a lot of issues with how we ultimately conduct the war. I personally do, and I have a lot of issues that are also painted on the basis of the conversation I had when a few weeks later after October 7th. The way he talked about the Palestinians, I kept talking about Hamas. He kept talking about the Palestinians. I kept coming back to Hamas, and then ultimately how the war was conducted. Not saying it was a genocide. I'm not. But I have
it
issues
was.
with the thing that he
said. Again, his whole appeal is to people's feelings. It's a very patronizing thing. And this is what liberal politics is. It's an appeal to people's feelings, right? Basically the difference between voting for one of these Democrats like Newsom and voting for a Republican is how you feel about the problems that you just can't solve. Right. Well, we can't give everybody health care. So we could either act like that's a real shame and vote Democrat, or we can act like, well, it's your own goddamn fault if you die because you can't afford health care. And that's where you'd vote for the GOP. The only difference is how you emotionally process the sort of futility of your politics. That's it. There's no actual material component to it whatsoever.
Yeah. And, we should also, this is very relevant. So Gavin Newsom signed into law 2 controversial K through 12 education laws. They were both pushed by the ADL. One was called SB 48 and one was AB 715. And so Assembly Bill 715 basically implements the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism as the law of the land. So it states, it has been well documented that Jewish and Israeli American pupils across California are facing a widespread surge in anti-Semitic discrimination, harassment, and bullying. Discrimination, harassment, and bullying of Jewish pupils has included discrimination by proxy and through the use of coded language, collective blame, and generalizations about Jewish people, vilification of Jews and Israelis, and distortions of Jewish religion, ancestry, history, and identity. So this obviously can have a lot of chilling effects and do exactly the types of things that, Jonathan Greenblatt wants to do.
Well, of course. I mean, he would brag about how he didn't take AIPAC money, but it turns out he took JPAC money, which is another kind of version of AIPAC. No, he's just a complete weasel, but he is the front runner for the nomination. And this is kind of interesting. I mean, I've been following you since the Bernie days. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have. So I've listened to your coverage through, 2 different Democratic primaries, and we all know how that goes. And, if you look at Trump's approval rating now, it's hovering 40%. And I think the country's only going to get worse and worse and worse between now and 28, which is the only reason Newsom is viable at all. I thought after the fires, he was basically, DOA. But I think because the Republicans have so sort of just shit the bed that, he is seen as more formidable now. But if you look at this roster, it is pretty miserable. Like it is hard to imagine any of these people, with the exception of maybe Mark Kelly, because he's sort of generic enough to the point where he's not just like so loathsome in the eyes of the average person. But he's a 5%.
Wow.
But besides him, it's hard to imagine any of these people winning, even with the Republican brand being just as horrible as it is. And I think the Israel issue is going to create a lot of problems for them, because the base has really turned against Israel, but the donors still want them to toe the kind of line that Newsom is towing. To me, it creates a huge, huge problem for them. Like, I think they'll do well in the midterms, because the midterms is just a referendum on the in party. But in terms of the presidency, I don't know. What do you think? To me, it's not looking great for them at all, given this slate of candidates.
I don't know. Yeah, Jesus. I mean, Gavin, I'm actually surprised that, God, Pritzker, Shapiro. Well, obviously, as Jake Tapper would tell us, we're not going to vote for Pritzker Shapiro, because we're anti-Semites.
Right. Yeah.
Remember,
So
he was
that's
really upset. Yeah. Actually, Pritzker's Jewish too. So there. This is, I don't know. This does not bode well. But it's like, never underestimate the Democrats' ability to totally fuck something up.
Of course. I mean, look, this is just a snapshot of where we are. Obviously, I think Kamala is a non-starter, but the fact that like this is where the party is in the face of all this. Like, if you look at what's going on in Minnesota, with the ICE protests, the fact that there's like no leadership from the opposition party, there's no leader that can actually like rally people in a productive direction. Or even, to be cynical about it, even to corral people in an unproductive, like there's nobody doing anything. There's nobody saying anything. Like it's just amazing. There's just complete radio silence from the so-called opposition.
I know, and party. This is like a white woman, mother, like a gay white. I mean, this is like the it's like the libs, the neoliberal dream of a victim, right? A white lesbian mother. And again, I'm not like, I think that those are totally irrelevant things. I'm just saying, for like a Kamala, that's a perfect person to talk about.
Sure.
And they can't even do it with that person.
No,
Renee
it's
Good.
It's really bleak in that way. It really is.
But there's some other names on there. Jon Stewart was there, Mark Cuban.
Oh yeah, they're registering.
I saw Cory Booker. Yeah.
I still have a feeling it's going to be a situation where the nominee emerges from somewhere we're not looking yet. Like I can't imagine any of them carrying a ticket. I just can't. I have a feeling it's going to be somebody that's just not on our radar yet. Because one thing that definitely seems to have sort of crossed a point of no return, and you saw this with the Mamdani election, is that the Democratic base has finally gotten ornery with the party bosses, who could usually just direct them. Okay, Pete Buttigieg is out, Amy Klobuchar is out. You all have to vote Biden now to stop Bernie. And they all did it. Just like sheep, they just marched into the voting booth, one after the other. I think the Mamdani race was an indication that the party bosses are going to have a harder time doing that than they have in the past. So that makes it a little bit more of an interesting situation. But the crop as it currently stands it's a sad lot for sure.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. I wish I had some like clever insight to share, but I feel like I have no idea about electoral politics right now.
Yeah. I
mean, there's certain
share
things
that.
that are exciting. I think sometimes we have to remember that it's not about like the person, but about trends. So whatever you think about Mamdani, it is a significant thing that he won, having said the things that he said. That doesn't mean that he can't be pushed. That doesn't mean that he won't be disappointing, but it is a good moment to remember that.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. All right, Katie. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks
I
for
really
having me.
appreciate you
Yeah, it was
coming
great.
on. Absolutely. It was a lot of fun, as always. Why don't you tell people where they can find you Monday morning tomorrow,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, Monday morning you can find us at youtube.com/useful idiots. That's when we go over the Sunday morning news shows. And then you can always find me at youtube.com/the Katie Halper Show. And that's where I do my live stream of the Katie Halper Show. And definitely subscribe because I mean, obviously we always push people to subscribe, but especially because I've been doing these extra streams. So you want to know when those are happening.
Awesome. Please do that.
And
All
you
right,
guys have
Katie.
to come back on. It's always great having you guys on. So
Absolutely.
make it happen again. Yeah.
We would love to. Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining. Great to
Thanks
see
for
you as
having me.
always. And we'll see you next time.
Great. Bye.
All righty. Bye-bye. Katie Halper, everybody. Thanks very much for joining. A round of applause in the chat. All right, we're going to bring in Kyle Anzalone. Just a minute. Kyle, I'm sorry to make you wait just a couple more minutes because we have a guy who's we have some bum over here on a train. Some homeless guy on a train is calling in. Who are you? What do you want?
I need 50 baht. I need 50 baht. There's a lady here. That's what she wants, to give me a nice massage. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Hey, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in the bathroom here, and the attendants for the train, they're actually soldiers. So I'm like, all right, well, they're probably used to Westerners shitting their brains out, so they're probably not going to think too much of me being in here for a really long time, unless it runs for like a half an hour.
Right.
They probably think I'm blowing the place out right now.
There's a line of people waiting for the bathroom, and you're in here talking to us.
Nah, there's another one. There's another one across the way.
There's another one. You should have put a sign. You should have put a sign on the door with an arrow to the other one.
Live streaming.
Yeah, live stream in progress. Use other door.
Western asshole live streaming.
Yeah. Podcast recording in progress. Use other door.
If red light is on, it does not mean Nobu massage. It means podcasting.
Yeah. So you can't do that in China. You can't commandeer a bathroom and do podcasting in China. You're in big trouble.
Man, I think I probably can to my travel channel. Just not to this channel, man. It's too hot. It's too hot.
So
they love it when you go to China and you're like, I'm going up to Chiang Mai right now. That's the northern city. I'm going to be there for quite a while. I'll be there for like 9 days. Oh, all right. So this is, I know we have people like everywhere who want to hang out. I'm sorry to the Bangkokians. I just got there. I didn't really have time to sort them out. So this is how we're going to do this so that I'm not alerting my whereabouts to the massage by announcing on this show where I'm going to be. 2dissidents@gmail.com. If you're in the Chiang Mai area, put Chiang Mai in the subject line. I will figure out a spot. And listen, I love being my karaoke. If you live up there and you got a good karaoke spot to suggest, that's probably what I'm going to look for. Just put Chiang Mai in the subject line, and I'll do that as I go through these cities. I'll get together with our dissidents around the world. We'll just get an email chain going, and we will hang out.
All right. Well, that sounds cool. All right. So how long is this train ride?
This is a 10-hour train ride. I did it this way because I wanted to see the countryside, which, as you can see, is quite beautiful.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so I wanted to check that out. You're not going to see that taking a plane. But yeah, man, I have seen some amazing things, done some amazing things. They use motorcycles as taxis here, which
I've heard that.
Okay, so one of the tours I took got back really late, and they have a cockamamie system with this company that kind of like sells the tickets to the trains and the buses, where you got to go to their office. And I only had like an hour. So I did it. I took one of those. Dude, it was the most terrifying but exhilarating. So I told them I'm in a rush. You tell those guys you're in a rush.
Yeah, it's an adventurous choice. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
I have some footage of that. I tried a scorpion last night.
I know. You ate a
And
scorpion.
it's not as good as you would imagine. I don't think he's going to be able to get us to all eat scorpion, man.
Yeah.
At first, it tastes like burnt popcorn, and then it doesn't.
Right.
And when it doesn't, it really doesn't, and you start gagging. It's fucking disgusting. So yeah, man, it's been pretty amazing. It's been pretty amazing. So those videos are going on Russ on the Road. The first one is up already. The bacon, egg, and cheese noodle soup. And I've been, because of course all the food perverts keep saying more food. So I've been filming a lot of the food stuff. That'll go on. I'm gonna drop a video at least once a week. Oh, I also got a Buddhist monk to give a lecture on happiness. Directly to the camera. Like, gave a whole lecture on happiness at a Buddhist site. It's interesting because the country is 95% Buddhist. So when you go to some of these historic lots, there's still active temples. And at some of them, they actually proselytize. Like, not in an aggressive, obnoxious way, but they actually try to convert people to Buddhism or educate them about Buddhism. So it's pretty interesting. I've never seen that before, really. Like, Buddhists in the West, they usually kind of keep for themselves.
Right. Except the ones who try and get you, come up to you on the street
You
and
know,
hand you that thing.
at most, maybe they'll give you like a little flyer. Yeah,
exactly.
But generally, like, no. Like, I've never had a Buddhist walk up, like, on the street and be like, hey,
right.
You want to learn how to still your mind?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
All right,
you
man.
hear that, you assume Scientologist.
Yes, exactly. It's more a Scientology thing. All right, man. Well, I got another guest. I don't want to keep him waiting too much because he's got a young baby like me. So we dads stick
Absolutely.
together. All right, man. Well,
all
safe
right.
travels, and we'll see you Tuesday.
All right. Oh, and let me just, because people, let me just quickly say, because I see people keep getting confused about this. After this week, I'm doing pretty much every show. There's like 2 or 3 shows I can't do in the next couple months, but I'll be on for pretty much every other show.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you Tuesday. Safe travels.
All right. Have a great show.
All right. Godspeed. All right. Here is Russell Dobular live from the bathroom. All right, everybody. We'll move right on along here. We will get to all super chats and rumble rants in due time. I just don't want to keep our guests waiting too long, especially this guy, New Dad over here, part of the New Dads Club. He's our special guest, our second special guest of the evening. He is an opinion writer at thegreatantiwar.com. He's also a contributor at the Libertarian Institute, and he hosts the Kyle Anzalone Show. I've been a guest on there a couple times right here on YouTube. Please welcome our friend Kyle Anzalone. Kyle, great to see you, buddy.
Yeah, Keaton, thanks for having me on the show. I've been listening for a long time, so it's great to be on.
Of course. Yeah, you went on with Misty last year, and it's great to be able to have you on here. Busy days over there. I know Dave DeCamp just had a baby girl. He tweeted that out, so congratulations to him. So yeah, you guys are getting it done over there, making babies and breaking news. It should be your tagline on antiwar.com.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a busy couple weeks for me because Dave, I mean, the guy covers a massive amount of news. And so when he's out, I do my best to fill in for him. So for the next couple of weeks, news.antiwar.com is going to be myself, Jason Ditz, Will Porter, some Alan Mosley. But Dave will be back soon. He's just taking a couple weeks to, get settled in with the new baby girl.
Absolutely. And you have a little one yourself now, right? You're a relatively new dad too.
Yeah, she's 16 months now, and like moving around everywhere. She's got a ton of personality. She gets mad when just got mad at me this afternoon for telling her no. It's real fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, so you're my new guy is 17 months. So yeah, they're right around the same age there. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for being here. It's always great to get your take on things. Antiwar.com is such a great resource, and you guys have to just you guys have to just stay on top of things. Like, you have to be so informed up to the minute. I mean, you just write so much every day. It's such a great resource for everybody. If you haven't checked it out, news.antiwar.com. But I want to get into the latest from Iran. So in Iran crisis, Trump confronted limits of U.S. military power, writes the Washington Post. It was late Wednesday, and much of the Middle East and official Washington seemed certain President Donald Trump would launch punishing airstrikes against Iran, his second major use of American military power in as many weeks after the daring Delta Force raid into Venezuela to seize leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Trump had not officially given the strike order, but his top security advisors expected him to imminently authorize one of the military options presented to him and were girding themselves for a late night. The Pentagon advertised that a guided missile destroyer, the USS Roosevelt, had entered the Persian Gulf. Allies had been alerted that a U.S. strike was likely, according to a person familiar with the matter, and ships and planes were on the move. Personnel at the sprawling Al Udeid U.S. Air Base in Qatar were advised to evacuate to avoid an expected Iranian counterstrike. Help is on its way, Trump had promised Iranian protesters, encouraging them in a social media post Tuesday morning to take over regime institutions. While many U.S. and foreign officials took that to mean the United States would intervene militarily, Trump remained open to help in the form of pressuring Iran to stop killing demonstrators. The key moment came Wednesday when Trump received word through envoy Steve Witkoff that Iran's government canceled the planned executions of 800 people, according to a senior U.S. official. We're going to watch and see, Trump then told reporters in the Oval Office. On Thursday, U.S. intelligence confirmed the executions didn't happen, the official said. Trump's rapid evolution midweek, which left many of his advisors feeling whiplashed and Iranian dissidents feeling abandoned, reflected intense domestic and foreign pressures, according to interviews with more than a dozen current and former Middle Eastern officials who spoke on condition of anonymity to describe sensitive diplomatic conversations and ongoing military preparations. So here he is saying that, well, they canceled the hanging, so we decided not to bomb them.
Israeli officials convince you to not strike Iran?
Nobody convinced me. I convinced myself. You had yesterday scheduled over 800 hangings. They didn't hang anyone. They canceled the hangings. That had a big impact.
They canceled the hangings. They had a big impact. Well, you know who was very upset about this is Lindsey Graham. I mean, this just killed his whole vibe here. Here he is looking quite defeated that he didn't get the bombing that he so wanted.
It's out there that are, in my view, not accurate. President Trump's resolve is not the question. The question is, when we do an operation like this, should it be bigger or smaller? I'm in the camp of bigger. Time will tell. I'm hopeful and optimistic that the regime days are numbered.
Hopeful and optimistic. Well, you know who's angry? Mark Levin. Mark Levin, very upset about this. Here he is making his case a little more forcefully.
Iran today is a concentration camp. The lights are off. The electricity is off. It's dark. There's no communication except for Qatar's.
I'm sorry, Kyle, was he talking about Gaza or Iran there? A concentration camp with no lights, no electricity, a desperate population being mercilessly slaughtered at the hands of an authoritarian power. Was that Gaza he's talking about? Or
I was really confused with that lead in there. I thought for sure. I was like, wait, is he going to admit the genocide in Gaza? This is Mark Levin.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Had us going there for a minute.
Communication system, Al Jazeera. People are being dragged out of their homes tonight as I speak. They're hiding in their homes. They're being executed summarily. The prisoners who are the age of your children and grandchildren are being tortured and raped. It's not 3,000 dead. I just read it's 23,000 dead, and the number's going up. You can't see there. You can't hear there. Maybe they're not hanging people, but they have bullets. They're killing people, and they are abusing these people. Now, people say, what is it our business? Now, sometimes there are things we cannot do, the Uyghurs in China and so forth and so on. You just said that this guy Khomeini has ordered the assassination of our president. They've tried to assassinate our president. He should be taken out. When you try to take out the president...
I will refer you to another totally unsubstantiated claim in order to make the case for regime change that shouldn't happen. Any response to any of this so far? It seems like the neocons really thought they were going to get the bombing. I don't know what they're so upset about, because it seems like the plan for regime change is still very much on. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see this panic, because Axios had reported a little bit of a different narrative than the Washington Post. It was actually Benjamin Netanyahu who called Trump earlier in the day on Wednesday and told Trump that, hey, the Israelis are not prepared for this. And then there's a secondary issue, too. When we conducted the war in June, where Israel launched a aggressive war against Iran, and then the U.S. ends up joining in, we had 2 aircraft carrier strike groups and a THAAD missile interceptor in Israel that have since been moved out of the region. And it's really interesting. I believe it's the Reagan or the Ford. I think it's the Reagan is actually in the Caribbean. That's the one they used to kidnap Maduro. And so because, we have all these things that Trump's trying to do in every corner of the globe, he's really stretched our Navy in particular, and they didn't have an aircraft carrier strike group, which, what Lindsey Graham is saying there, I think he's coding some of the truth in the matter when he's talking about you could either do something small or you could do something big. One of the points that Netanyahu made is whatever the Trump administration had planned, he didn't think was enough to destroy the Iranian regime. And so I think it's the USS Abraham Lincoln, that aircraft carrier strike group. It's on its way to the region. They say it's going to be in CENTCOM's area of control within the week. Now, that could be like the Mediterranean, I think. It could be pretty far away from Iran still. So it may be a couple weeks before that ship is in position. But I don't think we should assume that this means Trump isn't going to strike Iran in the coming weeks just because he didn't order the strike on Wednesday when it seemed like everybody was anticipating it.
No, absolutely. In fact, this is from antiwar.com. Dave DeCamp, U.S. surging military assets to the Middle East to prepare for war with Iran after Trump postpones attack. The U.S. military is planning to surge military assets to the Middle East to prepare for a potential war with Iran after President Trump backed down from bombing the country, according to a report from the New York Times. U.S. officials told the paper that the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and some warships from its strike group were on their way to the Middle East from the South China Sea, a roughly week-long trip. The U.S. is also planning to send an array of warplanes to the Middle East, including fighter jets and refueling aircraft and additional air defenses. According to other media reports, the U.S. military's message to Trump amid his threats to bomb Iran is that there weren't enough U.S. assets in the region to face a potential counterattack, which could target the many U.S. bases in the region. Trump was also reportedly told that U.S. strikes likely wouldn't result in regime change and could lead to a prolonged war. The Times report also said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asked Trump to postpone his plans to attack Iran, and Axios reported the same thing later, saying that Netanyahu wants more time to prepare for Iranian retaliation. If the reports about Netanyahu's request are true, it's likely that he also wants more U.S. military assets in the region, since Israel relied on U.S. forces to intercept Iranian missiles during the war back in June 2025, and many still got through and struck Israeli territory, which is what led to Israel agreeing to a ceasefire after 12 days. On the other hand, the leaks and delays could be meant to keep Iran off guard as the U.S. and Israel engaged in a deception campaign before Israel launched the opening salvo of the 12-day war. So here is Lindsey Graham again saying, I've tried to stay hopeful about building the Abraham Accords, but the practice of saying one thing behind closed doors and another in public is coming to an end. So here he is criticizing the Arab states in the region.
In the region have been more than disappointing. If the media reports are true, that if the Arab countries are okay with Iran's Ayatollah staying in power, I'm going to reevaluate my entire opinion of the Arab world alliance. I've tried to be very hopeful to build on the Abraham Accords, but this idea of saying one thing behind closed doors and something else in public is coming to an end. So I've called Arab allies and I said, you need to correct the record. If you don't understand this is the biggest moment for change since the fall of the Berlin Wall, you're missing a lot. This is a religious war. Who wins it at the end of the day? Do the radical Islamic terrorists who want to kill all the Jews because God told them to? What we're facing right now is a moment of decision that will set the course of the future of the Mideast for 1,000 years.
And here is Steve Witkoff at the Israeli-American Council saying he's hoping for a diplomatic resolution.
Military action.
Well, I hope there's a diplomatic resolution. I really do. There are 4 issues: nuclear enrichment, missiles. They have to cut back on their inventory. The actual material that they have, which is roughly 2,000 kilograms, which is enriched anywhere between 3.67% and 60, and the proxies, of course. And I think if Iran, which is stumbling in their economy, it's a pretty serious situation. There's no water there 16 hours a day. There's no electric 12 hours a day. Inflation is probably well north of 50%. That's a lot of problems. So I think if they want to come back to the League of Nations, if we can solve those 4 problems diplomatically, then that would be a great resolution. And I think the alternative is a bad one.
Well, speaking of bad one, Donald Trump, to what you were saying earlier, Kyle, to Politico, the exclusive on this, it's time to look for new leadership in Iran. It seems to me, and I'd like to get your take on this, that a difference politically for Trump this time around is that back in June, he could sort of hide behind they can't have a nuclear weapon, and so we just have to take out their nuclear facilities. Now the discussion is overtly about regime change. Like there's no wiggling around that in front of a microphone. You're stuck having to sell this to a country who really just doesn't want to hear it anymore. Good example of that. Here's Tim Dillon.
Iran either. Sorry. I don't give a fuck about Iran either. Sorry. Throw them out if you don't like them. It has nothing to do with me. And the fact that the idea that I have to give a flying fuck, you should be standing with Iran. Shut the fuck up. Will you shut the fuck up? If they want to throw the bums who run Iran out, throw them the fuck out. But the idea that the United States of America, when people can't afford houses and they can't afford health care, spends all its fucking time talking about the Middle East and fucking Arabs and Jews and religion and the fucking temple and slaughtering the heifer and Iran and Sunnis and Shiites. Get what the fuck is going on? Truly. What the fuck is going on? That we're told, well, is Iran Sunni or Shia? What is happening? Okay? Our own country is being destroyed and it's going down the toilet.
And that seems to be the mainstream opinion here. CBS poll, do you favor or oppose taking military action against Iranian regime to support protesters? Only 32% in favor. And this is consistent with the polling about Venezuela, where you saw was about 24%. We're going to talk about Greenland next. It's even lower for Greenland. You're talking about a very war-weary nation, and Trump is really stuck having to make this old 2003 argument about regime change. He can't hide behind, well, we're just doing strikes against their nuclear facilities anymore. So What is your take on that, and what do you think is going to happen moving forward? Do you think we're going to end up striking, or just do it kind of the soft way in terms of
I mean, you mind if I riff off a couple of those clips there, because I think that I throw some important details on with Witkoff. Apparently, at the White House debate on striking Iran this last time around, Witkoff was one of the two people in the Trump administration advocating against Trump taking strikes. And that's, I guess, unsurprising. Witkoff was apparently the bad channel. He had communications with the Iranian foreign minister, and the Iranian foreign minister is the one that said Iran wouldn't go through with the executions, which I think is what Trump publicly used as the off-ramp not to attack, when in reality it was Netanyahu's request and the lack of military assets in the region, which is why he didn't do it. But that same article that said Witkoff and Susie Wiles were against it had a really interesting detail in there. J.D. Vance was for it. He told the president that you set a red line and you told the Iranians they couldn't kill protesters. They killed protesters, and so you must now do this. And I think that's really, really, really critical. J.D. Vance was supposed to be the one advocating against regime change, particularly in the Middle East. He gave a lot of people some confidence that Trump would be better in the second time around. And not only is Trump significantly worse, but J.D. Vance has moved in the wrong direction and is just actually driving Trump to take more aggressive policies than he otherwise would. Now, you mentioned there that there's this real shift in the rhetoric where it's no longer about Iran's nuclear program or missile program. It's about the protesters. And Keaton, when did that change? Well, after Benjamin Netanyahu visited the United States at the end of the year.
Right.
And, we knew before the visit that he was going to come to the United States of America and he was going to present Trump with an intelligence dossier from Mossad that says, Israel is in a position where they are either going to fight a series of small wars with Iran over the coming years, or they're going to fight one big war and take out Iran's government, their nuclear program, their missile programs, and basically turn Iran into Iraq or Syria or Libya, like a failed state with no military and no ability to project power in the region, contest what Israel is doing whatsoever. And so Trump's rhetoric, it changed as Netanyahu was in the United States. And I think you bring up a really important point that that's going to make it a lot less popular with Americans. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like it's going to be like with Venezuela, that there's no serious debate in this country. The media is not going to be, talking about this 24/7. They're not going to be asking every congressman who comes on, when are you going to induce a war powers resolution? Will you introduce an impeachment motion against the president if he goes to war against Iran without a constitutional declaration of war? But you don't see those conversations at all. And so I really worry that once that aircraft carrier is in place, it's essentially like with Venezuela, where you could set down maybe a 2-month countdown clock until all the conditions are right that the U.S. goes and tries to take out the Iranian government.
I mean, this is the main difference, I feel like, between 2003 and now, because as you mentioned there, J.D. Vance, supposedly this voice of reason, supposedly this next generation of like war weary, like elder millennials who, grew up learning the lessons of the Iraq war. And, one of the main ironies of this administration is that this feels more like Bush's third term than anything since Bush, except for the fact that when you look at the polling is completely upside down. When George Bush invaded Iraq, these numbers were flipped. 70% of people supported him when he did it. Now they're going to try to do Iran, which is much, much harder, much, much worse. I mean, you're talking about a country of 90 million with 30% support. It's hard to envision where this goes and how this goes. Is this a country that's prepared to do this? Meaning our country? Like, are we ready for this? I don't think so.
I think the problem is you can't compare it to 2003 in Iraq, because at that time we pretended that the Constitution meant a lot more than it obviously actually does, where Donald Trump at this point, they took the 2001, the AUMF for Iraq that was supposed to be able to go against Al-Qaeda, bin Laden's guys, and the Taliban, and they fought and they bombed, places from Morocco to the Philippines with that one AUMF. And in fact, it seems like they're using that to bomb the drug boats in the Caribbean. That's why every time they bomb one, Pete Hegseth says this is a designated foreign terrorist organization. And, this is the same thing as stopping the bin Ladenites. He's actually saying that because they're using that same declaration to justify war all over the world that they declare him a terrorist. So I don't think popular support matters a whole lot, especially if the political and the media class in the United States isn't going to do anything about it. 30% opposition or support is probably enough that you don't have a critical mass of people out in the streets, and then they just get away with it.
Yeah, I think I fear you are likely right about that. All right, we're going to talk about Greenland next. Let me just take a couple of these Rumble rants, if that's all right. Always a pleasure. Thanks. Says S. Pud Tdo. Thank you. Shout out to Jake in the booth. Thanks, Jake, for being here. 2182 in the YouTube chat. Thanks, everybody, for being here very much. Smash that like button. Yeah. And then I do this when we're over 666 in the like column. But I can't headbang like Russ because I give myself a headache. Vienticus Prime, everything's a scam, everything's a lie. Everyone wants hate and war and only have half a clue why. Professor Brown notes, as regards to Miss Halper's new intro, short, sweet, and idiotic, simple in two regards, musical genre, simpleton. Yeah, she kind of does what we do. She does like parody clips in the intro. I noticed that too. I like it. Vienticus Prime says, Russ is going to be on a train and see a very beautiful woman. He'll pray, please don't get an erection. Please don't get an erection. Please don't get an erection. But sure enough, she will. Ha! That's a Thailand joke. Thanks for that. T-Bone says, Miriam literally sounds like Klaus Schwab. I absolutely love Katie Halper. She fits right in. And Rex Jones was a great guest last show. DD Freak rocks. T-Bone. Thank you, T-Bone. Appreciate that very much. All right, we're going to talk about Greenland now. Greenland is the war no one saw coming. But here is Donald Trump tweeting out this banger about Greenland yesterday. We have subsidized Denmark and all of the countries of the European Union and others for many years by not charging them tariffs or any other forms of remuneration. Now, after centuries, it is time for Denmark to give back. World peace is at stake. China and Russia want Greenland, and there is not a thing that Denmark can do about it. They currently have 2 dog sleds as protection, 1 added recently. Still got it. Still got the jokes, 1 added recently. Only the United States of America under President Donald J. Trump can play in this game, and very successfully at that. Nobody will touch this sacred piece of land, especially since the national security of the United States and the world at large is at stake. On top of everything else, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Finland have journeyed to Greenland for purposes unknown. This is a very dangerous situation for the safety, security, and survival of our planet. These countries who are playing this very dangerous game have put a level of risk in play that is not tenable or sustainable. Therefore, it is imperative that in order to protect global peace and security, strong measures must be taken so this potentially perilous situation end quickly and without question. Starting on February 1st, all of the above-mentioned countries, Jesus, talk about burying the lead, will be charged a 10% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. On June 1st, 2026, the tariff will be increased to 25%. This tariff will be due and payable until such a time as a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. The United States has been trying to do this transaction for over 150 years. Many presidents have tried, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to read all that. That's enough already. But here is Scott Bessent on Meet the Press insisting that we are actually doing this for the benefit of the Greenlanders who have been so horribly abused for all this time by the evil nation of Denmark.
All of Greenland, something that 85% of people living in Greenland oppose.
Well, again, and let's look back. Denmark has a terrible history with Greenlanders. There was forced sterilizations up until the 80s or the 90s. So all of a sudden, now that the U.S. has expressed an interest, there is this new interest. And again, the United States needs to be in control to prevent a war, and that we do not want to get dragged into someone else's war.
Yankee go home. Greenlanders protest Trump's takeover plan. For the first time since President Trump renewed his campaign to take over Greenland, people across the Arctic island braved the freezing temperatures and took to the icy streets on Saturday in coordinated protests. Demonstrators waved Greenlandic flags as some people openly cried in the rain at a protest in Nuuk, the capital, when Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen suddenly appeared. The crowd roared as he climbed onto a snowbank to raise a flag. Mr. Nielsen led several hundred Greenlanders as they marched through the capital center, a rare sight in a city of fewer than 20,000 residents. Some carried hand-painted signs reading "No means no," "Greenland is already great," and "Yankee go home." Others displayed harsher and cruder slogans aimed at the U.S. administration. Demonstrations were also held in Asiat, Kakertok, and Ilulissat, sorry in advance to residents of those fine cities, with rallies taking place in Copenhagen and other Danish cities. So here's some pictures from Greenland, the protests there. It's a cute picture up there. And here is, what's this guy's name? Andrew Callahan from Channel 5. He's on the ground in Greenland covering the protests.
To Greenland, literally just off the plane.
We are walking to the U.S. consulate about 5,000 deep.
The largest demonstration in Greenlandic history is taking place.
People are expressing their frustration with Trump's aspirations to conquer Greenland, or I guess acquire it for a certain amount of billions.
So we're going to tag on here on the back and see if we can talk to some people about what's going on. Oh, jeepers creepers, but it's very fucking icy.
My name is Kristen Sinema.
Here on behalf of Greenland. What happened here is very ugly.
On a
and
deeper
evil.
level, why do you think he wants Greenland?
He just wants our minerals.
I think it's because of the minerals. I don't think it's because of Golden Shield project or whatever it's called.
A vast amount of rare earth minerals. It's like everything you need for your phone, your car, your gun, whatever could be found in Greenland. So that is also something that the U.S. needs to compete with China.
If Trump also coming here, I will say to him, fuck off, you have nothing to do here. We are not for sale, Greenland is not for sale, and we will never be for sale.
Protesters from across Denmark packed Copenhagen's City Hall Square before marching to the U.S. Embassy on Saturday, with some carrying signs of solidarity with Greenland, like "This land is their land." Others directed their messages at the Trump administration, including "Make America Smart Again." Han Duholm, 61, had come into the city from her horse farm in Lair with her husband and daughter, sporting hats that said "Make America Go Away." So there's a photo of the scene in Denmark. And I got to say, this is one of the most clever protest signs I've ever seen. I like this a lot. That's fucking great. See, in America, we should do that. That's really clever. That's engineering, you know? That really is good. I like that. That takes a lot of skill to do. Well done. Well done. Danes 1, Americans 0. So here's President of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen. Territorial integrity and sovereignty are fundamental principles of international law. They are essential for Europe and for the international community as a whole. We have consistently underlined our shared transatlantic interest in peace and security in the Arctic, including through NATO. The pre-coordinated Danish exercise conducted with allies responds to the need to strengthen Arctic security and poses no threat to anyone. The EU stands in full solidarity with Denmark and the people of Greenland. Dialogue remains essential, and we are committed to building on the process already begun last week between the Kingdom of Denmark and the U.S. Tariffs would undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. Europe will remain united, coordinated, and committed to upholding its sovereignty. So they're talking somewhat tough, but carrying a small stick. And here is a representative from the AfD party in Germany, Alice Weidel, saying that those who criticize Putin are now silent about Trump. Translate this as we go.
Weil Putin
Spoke
hat im
about
Jahr
double standards
2022 das Völkerrecht gebrochen.
because Putin violated
Da schreien sie seit
international law in
Jahren
2022.
Völkerrechtsbruch,
For years, they've been
Mörder
crying
sogar.
violation of international
in
law,
einer
even
Art
murder,
und Weise,
in a way
hier,
that is
wie
so
hier
full of
voller
hatred
Hass
against
gegen
Russia,
Russland
here
aufgefahren wird,
as
ohne
here,
sich nur
without ever
einmal in die
considering
Lage zu versetzen, dass auch Russland
that Russia
Sicherheitsinteressen hat
also has
und
security
eine
interests
Integrität
and the integrity
auf sein eigenes
of its own
Territorium,
territory,
das von allen
which was
Seiten
threatened from all
durch
sides by missile
Raketenstationierung in
deployments
Reichweite
within
bedroht wurde.
range.
Die NATO-Osterweiterung
NATO's eastward
wurde als
expansion
Bedrohung
was seen
gesehen,
as a
als
threat,
rote Linie.
as a red
Es wurde
line.
alles ignoriert.
All of this was
Und Donald
ignored,
Trump setzt
and
das
Donald Trump is
Monroe-Doktrin
implementing
um.
the Monroe
Es ist genau
Doctrine.
das Gleiche umgekehrt.
It's exactly the same
Monroe-Doktrin, wir
in
dulden
reverse.
keine
We
feindliche
will not
Macht
tolerate
in
any hostile power
amerikanischen
in
Vorhöfen.
America's backyard. So, calling out some hypocrisy there. But here's Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, saying our full partnership and obligations to Article 5, meaning NATO, stand, and that we stand fully behind Denmark.
The future of Greenland is a decision for Greenland and for the Kingdom of Denmark. We are NATO partners with Denmark, and so our full partnership stands. Our obligations on Article 5, Article 2 of NATO stand, and we stand full square behind those.
And here's Scott Bessent again on Meet the Press saying European leaders will come around and understand they need to be under the U.S. security umbrella. So here's Kristen Welker asking if the United States is choosing between Greenland and NATO.
To you bluntly, is Greenland or NATO more essential to the United States national security?
Well, Chris, that's obviously a false choice. That's a
Not from the perspective of European leaders.
The European leaders will come around and they will understand that they need to be under the U.S. security umbrella. What would happen in Ukraine that if the U.S. pulled its support out? The whole thing would collapse. That the U.S., Christian, to be clear, since 1980, the U.S. has spent U.S. military spending versus NATO military spending. We have spent $22 trillion more dollars than the Europeans have. That we are peace through strength. And the Europeans now are only trying to play catch up. And that is only through President Trump. President Trump believes in NATO, but he does not believe in the American people being dragged in.
Well, in terms of the cost.
All right, so we have more to this segment, but I think this is a good place to pause for some perspective from you, Kyle. What do you make of this choice between Greenland and NATO? I mean, I'm all for dismantling NATO. I didn't think it was going to take a war with Greenland to do it, though. I mean, this kind of seems like a steep price to pay. I think the point of folding up the NATO tent was to avoid World War, not to instigate World War.
Although the Treasury Secretary does make one fair point there at the end, which is NATO is nothing without the United States of America. And so I could see a scenario playing out where the Europeans, they whine and they moan and they complain. But at the end of the day, if Trump really does do something to give the U.S. control of Greenland, what are they going to do? Are they really going to destroy the NATO alliance for Greenland? Does France or Germany or the UK really care that much about Denmark and a colony of Denmark to break up the NATO alliance for it and to really lower their standing on the world stage and their ability to summon the American military to their defense? I think you could very realistically see a scenario playing out where Trump actually does make some kind of move on Greenland. And again, they all say, you shouldn't do that. That's bad. That's not the way international law works. But at the end of the day, what real card do they have to play to do against it? I worry Trump's going to watch the video of those protesters and say, if that's the most the largest protest in Greenland history, then he's just going to go right in and take that place over.
Well, of course.
So, I mean, I'm really actually concerned about this. At first, I thought it had more to do with Trump actually being concerned about China or Russia taking over. I know that sounds absurd, but in Trump's mind, it could be realistic. And he wants all these European countries to send some extra troops and to build some bases and to just militarize Greenland. But it seems like he's gotten that, and yet he's now upping the ante by actually putting tariffs on some of these European countries because they're not going along with his Greenland takeover. So I think we're looking at a reality here where Trump must want something else. And if it's not about the military, then it's about the minerals and the natural resources. And I've heard plans to build data centers there. So we could be looking at a real takeover. And I also think a part of it too, if you look at Trump right now, a lot of this is everything he does, every post on Truth Social has something about Donald Trump in it. Even the obituary for the Dilbert guy, Scott Adams, Trump, hit the second sentence is he was a great supporter of Donald Trump, even when it was unpopular.
Right.
Right. Even somebody else's obituary is actually about him. I think Donald Trump would like to have a big blob on the map that's the same color as the United States of America. So when every child's in elementary school, they point to Greenland and they say, once that, and they get the story about how the great president Donald Trump added so much size to the United States of America.
Yeah, I think that could be a part of it. I think the mineral piece though is big, and I think you saw with the Greenlanders interviewed about that. They seem to think that was the big part of this. And what I think lends credence to that theory is this is something people don't talk about a lot. The New York Times did a piece on this, but it's been talked about in different circles as well. Buy Greenland, take it. Why? An old pack already gives Trump a free hand. Under a little-known Cold War agreement from 1951, the United States already enjoys sweeping military access in Greenland. Right now, the United States has one base in a very remote corner of the island, but the agreement allows it to, quote, construct, install, maintain, and operate military bases across Greenland, house personnel, and control landings, takeoffs, anchorages, moorings, movements, and operation of ships, aircraft, and waterborne craft. So it sounds like we can already use Greenland for strategic defense without violating an already existing treaty. So if that's the case, then yeah, this must be about something else, right? I mean, that just kind of stands to reason, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, Greenland is a Danish colony and Denmark is a member of NATO. And so realistically, Greenland is already protected by the United States of America through the NATO treaty. And so this whole idea that it needs to be a part of America so Russia and China know to keep their hands off it, I mean, that's already the case. So it's definitely not about the military. It's got to be something else. I'm sure minerals and all the people in the tech industry that are close to Trump are really pushing for this. And it does seem like they often have a lot of sway on his policy.
And do you think the fact that the Russia-Ukraine war has not been resolved as promised gives Trump more leverage over Europe? I think it does, because I think that that's part of why they are inclined to, at the end of the day, as you speculated, just roll over, because not only do they have to worry about Trump in the West, but they're of course worried about Putin in the East, so they can get squeezed on both ends. If the war in Ukraine had been resolved, I think Trump would have less leverage. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's a great point, Keaton. And I mean, Bessa kind of alludes towards it, right? Where if the U.S. pulls their support, even for not selling or giving Ukraine like the weapons like Joe Biden was, all the military intelligence we're pouring in, they do all these complex like battle simulations and things like that to figure out where the Ukrainians need to put their troops, where the Russians are going to be pushing forward. A lot of intelligence, and particularly the CIA is helping Ukraine plan the flight routes, right? So they get drones, and then They gotta fly them at certain altitudes in certain places and around certain air defense systems and radar stations. And so without all this U.S. support, Ukraine would be absolutely dead. And yeah, Trump could go to I guess, London or Paris or Berlin and basically say, like, look, if you don't go along with this, Ukraine gets nothing and you guys lose this project you've invested hundreds of billions of dollars in. And that does seem like a pretty powerful card to play.
There's another element too here, because I think, and you seem to be saying, and I think you're right, that militarily Europe just doesn't hold the cards here. We do. But, one of the things that is sort of characteristic of a lot of, late stage empires is they completely lose any sense of soft power. So here is Canadian Prime Minister Carney saying he's had discussions with Chinese President Xi Jinping over U.S. threats to annex Greenland, saying, I found much alignment of views in that regard.
With President Xi about the situation in Greenland, about our sovereignty in the Arctic, about the sovereignty of the people of Greenland and the people of Denmark, and I found much alignment of views in that regard.
So this is Peter Schiff. He's a libertarian. He used to hang out at Occupy Wall Street and debate the Occupy Wall Street protesters. I used to see him down there. He predicted the financial crash in 2008. And here he is with, I think, a pretty prescient tweet here. Trump has it backwards. The U.S. doesn't subsidize the world subsidizes the U.S. The dollar's reserve currency status allows us to live beyond our means. Soaring debt, tariffs, and military threats jeopardize that status. When it's lost, economic collapse will follow. So yeah, there's the question of, will this be the end of NATO? I think an equally important question is, will shit like this eventually, perhaps sooner than later, lead to the end of Bretton Woods? In other words, like, will the countries of the world, when we become just as rapacious as we have, as aggressive as we have, as violent and as disruptive as we have, eventually, does the world just get together and decide to just flip the board? And I think what he's saying is absolutely true. We have a $39 trillion debt. If we are no longer the world's currency, well, that changes everything. That changes everything. And so there's the military power play, but then there's this as what could really be a nuclear option. And I feel like this is something, and I think Peter Schiff is 100% right here. Trump doesn't understand soft power. He has no concept of that. That you push the world to the point where you got fucking Inuits in Greenland protesting in the streets because you're about to take over their country. At what point does the world just unite against this, against us? Is that something that you think is a realistic possibility in the not too distant future?
Well, I do think it's a possibility, and particularly if Trump tries to move ahead, say, with a regime change in Iran, I think, even like the Saudis, the Emirates, and the Qataris are going to see the Americans as increasingly unstable partners and continue to shift their trade focus to the East, to China, to Russia, to India, or what's called like the global South with South Africa and Brazil and Brits and things like that. I'm not sure that taking Greenland wouldn't make a big deal here, only because, as I said before, I feel like the Europeans are kind of cut to the Americans. And even if they did have a real trump card to play, say, on the finances and moving and shifting towards China or these other countries on these issues, they still have like Ukraine that's going to prevent them from moving too close to Brits. And so I think Trump could actually get away with taking Greenland without too many global repercussions. However, as he continues to push buttons elsewhere on the world, Venezuela, Iran, just on Friday, by the way, Keaton, the FAA put out a notice that there could be potential military activity over Mexico, the Eastern Pacific, Colombia, Ecuador, all through Central, South America, and Mexico. And they did this before, of course, the U.S. carried out the operations against Maduro. And they've been talking about conducting drone strikes and things like that in Mexico. Doing something like that, I think, is going to tip us more towards losing the reserve currency status. All these, little provocations against countries that really want to get along with the United States, and yet we try to go and run their countries and do all kinds of military actions inside of them.
Well, sure. Yeah. That's a good point. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, yeah, do I think Greenland is necessarily the straw that will break the camel's back? No, because the particulars of this are, as you explained, such that, I think we have a relatively strong hand to play. But just because you have a strong hand to play doesn't mean you should play it, because, as you just mentioned, all these countries want to do is live. All these people want to do is live. And Greenland is such, it's almost a cartoonish example of people whose only goal in life is to just mind their own business. And look at the opinion polling here. Do you support or do you approve or disapprove of U.S. military force to take Greenland? 14% of Americans approve, 86 disapprove. The absurdity of it, the ill will behind it is just so apparent that eventually, when these things pile up one after the other, one example of just going in and bullying people whose only wish is to live their lives peacefully and in peaceful coexistence, as you mentioned, with the United States. When we insist that's impossible, you can only do that so many times, I feel, before the world is just like, we've had enough of your shit. We have no choice. The economic nuclear option is to flip the monetary system on its head. And that's, to me, what makes that especially likely is that it's really the only thing they can do, since no one can outgun the United States at this point, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good insight. It does seem like, especially on the global stage, that eventually this is all going to build up and tip. And we have seen, this slow move in that direction, right? Turkey is, I think, an observing member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Sorry about my automatic camera there. Argentina was going to join until Malay took over, but these groups are expanding and expanding. And it's essentially everyone outside of the direct Western orbit, everybody who's not in NATO, plus Japan and Australia and South Korea, right? Everybody else is now in this alternative economic order, and they understand. I think they see that the U.S. is on a path, a really bad path, and it's going to collapse, and that basically to treat the U.S. something like a dying star, where it's going to lash out and throw off massive firepower in certain areas for seemingly no reason. One of the reasons I worry about Trump being able to get away with some of this stuff in the U.S. is it seems so arbitrary. When I go and just talk to people, I'm like, oh man, I think Trump is going to invade Venezuela. They say, Venezuela? Why would we invade Venezuela? And then I explained to him, well, Secretary of State Marco Rubio really wants regime change in Cuba. And they're like, wait, now we're going to Cuba? And I'm like, yeah, the whole Venezuela thing is really about Cuba. And that's my position on this. And to the American person, it just sounds so arbitrary. We had to go into Iraq because they had weapons of mass destruction, or at least we are led to believe that. And so this was about, the security of the American state, and Congress voted on it. And when you don't even have those votes and debates and discussion going on in the media and largely in Congress, they did have a Venezuela vote, but it didn't get a lot of attention, and it kind of just flew under the radar. Trump is able to get away with a lot of this stuff. And, I wonder how much countries like Russia and China are going to say, the solution here is really to let the American empire get weaker and weaker and weaker. And then we could really up our presence on the global stage at a time when the U.S. doesn't have the capability to send a dozen aircraft carriers and all kinds of nuclear bombers and weapons our way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. You got time for one more segment? Want to talk about ICE?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about ICE. Let me just take a few of these. Give them hell, Katie and Keaton. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. The Zionist paradigm is completely broken, says Kuznetsky Bassane. Brad Gilbert says, who knew Semites were blonder than Pam Bondi? Yes, good one. Yes. Miriam Adelson's got that blonde hair. Empire We Are 01 says, I get Nosferatu vibes from Miriam Adelson. Thank you for that. John Smith says, you're against Israel? We will find you. That's Pam Bondi. We'll find you. Sam understands his audience doesn't understand. Talk about the Sam Cedar. Where skills says Zionists are the thin Jew line between freedom and Sharia communism. Love you, KD. Thank you. Where skill. Michael Castillo says, Katie Halber, you are truly beautiful and lovely. Please never give in. That's a nice sentiment, Michael. Thank you. End all wars and increase longevity. Dr. Shiva. There you go. Backlash, thanks for the $20, says, hey, in the last stream, Russ talked about the / keyword key, but didn't mention me / at all. Just wanted to say wanted everyone to know that I also exist on your keyboards and have plenty of users. Well, thank you, / we didn't mean to forget about you. Thank you very much. The Western liberal has utterly destroyed liberalism by capitalizing the L and turning it into a sports league religion hybrid. Thank you, George. Appreciate that. All right. We will take all Rumble rants and super chats in due time after this next segment. But I got Kyle for one more. So thank you very much, Kyle, for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks for staying up with us. I know life with a young one makes nights difficult for sure. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I usually stay up a little bit later and get some work done after she goes down. So this is like kind of turning into my prime time.
That's what I do too.
Night, yeah.
Yeah, I find myself up really late now because the thing is, our little one kind of sleeps in our room. And so like if I set an alarm for 5 o'clock and get up really early and do the work early and I wake him up, that's real bad. Right. So I feel like you kind of have to stay up late and get the work done because you can't set the alarm for the crack of dawn because if you wake the baby, that's a world of problems. So yeah, I've become kind of a night owl in the last year too, which I wasn't.
8 to 2 are like the for sure sleep times. Like this is you're not gonna hear a peep from her, and so you get like a lot of work done in the shortest amount of time possible.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to talk about Minnesota. Pentagon readies 1,500 soldiers to possibly deploy to Minnesota, officials say. You could bet on Kelsey now. Are we going to invade Greenland, Iran, or Minnesota next? What's the next war? That's how you could get odds on that. So once again, Pentagon readies 1,500 soldiers to possibly deploy to Minnesota. The Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota, defense officials told the Washington Post late Saturday, after President Donald Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in response to unrest there. The soldiers are assigned to 2 infantry battalions with the Army's 11th Airborne Division, which is based in Alaska and specializes in cold weather operations. The Army placed the units on prepare to deploy orders in case violence in Minnesota escalates, officials said, characterizing the move as prudent planning. It is not clear whether any of them will be sent to the state, the officials said, speaking like some others on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive military planning. The White House said in a statement that it's typical for the Pentagon to be prepared for any decision the president may or may not make. Spokespeople for the Defense Department did not respond to requests for comment. The development was reported earlier by ABC News. The Insurrection Act, a federal law dating back to 1807, permits the president to take control of a state's National Guard forces or deploy active duty troops domestically in response to a quote-unquote rebellion. Invocation of the act would be an extraordinary move and mark the first time a commander-in-chief has done so since President George H.W. Bush called on the military during the Los Angeles riots of 1992 that killed dozens of people and caused widespread destruction. Typically, invoking the Insurrection Act is considered a last resort when law enforcement personnel are unable to keep the peace during times of civil unrest. So here's Trump's Truth Social about this. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so you add all of these things together, and to me, it seems like the spectacle is the point when it comes to ICE. And the spectacle is intended to provoke civil unrest, which then leads to the further creation of a police state with ICE as a national militarized police force. Remember, all of this started here in Minneapolis with this illiterate closet case named Nick Shirley, who went door to door at these Somali daycare centers, and that's what served as the pretext for ICE. Well, here he is interviewing this guy Jake Lang, who decided he was going to, as a stunt, burn a Quran outside Minneapolis City Hall, and he announces where he's going to be and when to do this.
Will be burning Qurans, standing up against the Somali invasion of Minneapolis, the immediate deportation of Ilhan Omar, and the arrest of the scammer Tim Walz. Come join us 1 p.m. here, Minneapolis.
Okay, now come join us 1 p.m. here. Surely you know what's going to happen.
I love the Ilhan Omar.
Yeah,
Elon
Elon
one of my
Omar.
favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's the most obvious thing in the world that there's going to be a crowd of protesters there. Now, look, this guy he was one of the pardoned January 6ers, by the way. As vile, like that Nick Shirley video that was posted. I mean, it's really terrible. This was, some past event, some anti-Muslim rally, I think in Dearborn, Michigan, which is just like truly vile stuff. So much so I don't even want to play it. Now, look, I'm a free speech absolutist. I feel like no matter how vile what you say is, you have a right to say it without being violently attacked. And so, I don't condone any violence against him. But it's ironic here that a concerned Good Samaritan black man went and pulled him to safety as this crowd surrounded him. So here's what this turns out to be. Stop. So he pulls him out of the crowd, and he did get roughed up a bit here. But they pull him to safety, and then he gets in the car here. So Jake Lang, I was almost ripped limb from limb, my pants literally being ripped off. Death before dishonor and replacement. Alex Jones boosts this. The communists will do this to every single red-blooded American if we don't get serious about taking our nation back. Say what you want about Jake Lang, but the man has guts. Mario Nalfall, another huge X account, boosts this. Tommy Robinson boosted this. Here he is getting in a car and being driven away.
Oh my God. Drive. Oh my God. Just drive. Stop. Wait, let them go. Let them go. Hey, pull over. Hey, leave it. Get out of here. Leave it up. Get out of here. No.
Get out of here.
Let him leave. It's not working. Hey. We don't know him. Let him out. Let him out.
Now, you want to talk about more spectacle? I mean, talk about on-the-nose imagery here. Here's Gregory Bovino in full SS garb here. Trump's Border Patrol chief appeared at the Minneapolis protests with officers. Tweeted out by the Clash Report. Video credit, of course, to Status Quo. They've been on the ground there capturing some really amazing footage. Here's some of it. I mean, this is like a movie. Like AI. Yeah.
Hey, jump that photo. You're all fucking pretend. Coward chicken shit.
You're out fucking pretending. Yeah, this is what it seems like to me.
You're all fucking pretend! Coward chicken shit fucks!
Here's Greg Bovino. Now, you want to see something really crazy. I would not be surprised if the feds are involved with some of this to justify Trump using the military. Yeah, that's my theory. I don't know if you saw this video, Kyle, but this is pretty amazing. So Billy Nord from Minnesota says, need proof the federal government is planting agents in our streets to instigate a confrontation. Here you go, moments ago from BG on the scenes coverage in Minnesota. So where the video picks up is, I guess, either a protester or a concerned citizen sees a scuffle. They see this guy's getting beaten up, so they go to see what's wrong. Watch this video. This is kind of crazy. They get into it. They're not
Okay.
Let him up.
Hey, get up, get up. Let him go. Get your ass up. You good? That's all they ask. Watch out, watch out. He's one of us.
He's one of us.
He's one of us. Okay, good. You all right, dude? You all right? Come on. He's one of us. How do we know? How do we know?
He's one of us. He's one of the protesters. So how do we know what's going on? Watch what happens now.
Why you get ran
This
out?
is crazy. I mean, I agree with the guy who tweeted.
I'm with them. Trust me. He's Jake Lang. The whole time.
Here's the van.
You all right, man?
Now, these don't appear to be ice. This apparently is the sheriff's department. If you look closely, it's what's on their clothes. But watch how they handle this.
Right now. Back up. Back up. Yeah, save your Nazi. Put him in your Nazi van. Go get him some help. He needs a little bit of fucking mental health there.
They take him and they load him in the back of their van.
Nobody got guns. Hey, you gonna look me in the eye when you spray me? You gonna look me in the eye when you spray me? You gonna be just like the fucking bad guy. Nobody got guns. Don't be scared.
You ever see police roll up in an unmarked, a windowless white van, get out and say, what's going on here? And then when they realize that everything's cool, they take the guy and be like, all right, come with us.
Put their arm around him and just kind of gently help him to the van. I have never seen anything like that before. I mean, a large number of these people, if not themselves like federal agents, certainly federal informants, and even if they're not acting on direct orders, they certainly know that they have a lot of leniency to do things that other people wouldn't be able to do as far as how provocative they are. They really escalate these situations.
Of course.
That Lang guy, of course, he wants, right? Like, he wants to get attacked by a violent mob so he could say, oh, look how, outrageous the left is, or how outrageous Islam is. You can't even exercise your free speech rights without getting beat up. Where, of course, if some Muslim guy had an event where he was going to burn a bunch of Bibles in front of a church and somebody beat him up, I think most Americans would be like, well, we don't believe you should beat him up. But at the same time, like, you kind of got it coming. And so, but they want to use that to escalate the violence because it's good for their clits and it makes them look like they have something really interesting to say. Because look, 1,000 people are trying to beat the shit out of me. What I'm saying must be really powerful and really important, where if you just let him do his dumb thing, he would be mostly irrelevant.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, we'll get into this in a minute, but I think, when you look at guys like that, like Jake Lang, you wouldn't post a video saying, I'm going to be here burning a Koran at this time unless you wanted to create a spectacle event. I don't think he wanted to get hurt, obviously. But, I think he wanted to create a spectacle, a big conflict. I think this is the same thing. Let's watch this again. They come up.
You all right, man? Hey, move back! Move back!
All right, dude?
Right now! Back up! Back up! Yeah, save your Nazi. Put him in your Nazi van. Go get him some help. He needs a little bit of fucking mental health there. Don't he? Nobody got guns. Yeah, you gonna look me in the eye when you spray me? You gonna look me in the eye when you spray me? You gonna be just like the fucking guy.
So that's an agent. I mean, that has to be an agent there. I mean, there's no other explanation for that behavior. And, you know, once again, you ask yourself, is this immigration enforcement here? Without warning, without any verbal order of any kind, ICE in action. I mean, this looks like a scene from a movie. Like, that's not immigration enforcement. That's creating a spectacle for spectacle's sake. And so,
I really wish the protesters would like take off the dog masks and stuff, because when anybody on the right sees something like this, they don't care, right? Like if you're wearing a dog mask and you get arrested by some dudded up cops and masks and, you know, full body gear, they're just like, well, the streets need to be cleaned up. The dog was on the loose. They're taking them to the pound.
Right.
Like try to have a little bit of dignity when you're out there standing up for important issues. But this is, you know, absolutely terrifying, because I really don't think there's a check on Trump's power here. I don't think anybody is going to rein him in, and he's going to keep escalating. And I'm really worried he's going to use the Insurrection Act and set a real dangerous precedent here in the United States. And I'm not a Trump alarmist. I spent essentially his whole first administration being like, calm down, everybody. He's not a Nazi. He's actually a really ineffective. The bureaucracy has effectively controlled him. They lied to him about how many troops were in Syria. They lied to him about all kinds of important issues. He was never able to rein in his own government. And this time around, he's not being restrained by any of the existing powers or institutions or precedents. And so this is really concerning. So protesters, like, take this seriously. You don't want to be out there in a dog mask and give people a reason to not care about them throwing you around and not treating you the way they should.
I agree. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, you hear all these stories about just families ripped apart by ICE. It's really heartbreaking. I was reading one story yesterday about this family. The stepfather got taken away by ICE, and the little kid, I forget, she's like 4 or 6 years old. She keeps dreaming that he's back with the family, and she keeps waking up to him not being there, and to the point where she tells her mother, I don't like waking up anymore, because when I'm dreaming he's here, and when I wake up he's not. I mean, it's just absolutely horrible. And so, and as a, you know, a First Amendment advocate, I obviously support people's right to speak their mind, and that includes obviously protest. And so you like to think that there's some efficacy in that. On the other hand, I just have this really dreadful feeling that these kinds of protests are deliberately provoked by the government. And by these media people like Nick Shirley, who I'm sorry is clearly a fucking op. The kid was in Greenland last year interviewing the Inuits about what would it take, right? He's been to Israel. Like, this is this is all so clearly an op to me. To me, it seems so clearly manufactured to create chaos, to create the pretext for the further construction of a police state, to the point where if you think that the protests are part of the plan, then you have to kind of question the efficacy of the protest. I mean, do you follow what I'm saying? And it's a tough thing, because I believe in the right to protest, obviously, and I believe that they are correct to be outraged about what ICE is doing. At the same time, it seems like the powers that be really want these protests to be as disruptive as possible, because that is what builds political will for what they're doing here, which has very little to do with immigration. Okay, This is not immigration enforcement here. This is not. This is spectacle for spectacle's sake. And to your point, when you put on the dog mask and make a spectacle of yourself, you're feeding that. You're feeding that, and it seems to be playing right into their hands, which could culminate in an invocation of the Insurrection Act. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, coming into Trump's second term, he had a real mandate to crack down on the immigration issue. But what Americans really wanted was to end the flow of immigrants coming into the United States. I thought from the beginning that Americans didn't have the stomach to actually carry out a mass migration problem. And to our credit, I don't think we actually do. I mean, if you're going to deport maybe tens of millions of people at this point to get all the illegals out of the country, I mean, you're talking about ripping up so many families and really hurting a lot of communities by removing a lot of their members. And, these people have friends that are Americans. And so it's just going to become increasingly unpopular. And also, look, the first couple waves of people that you deport, if you're going after the felons and you're getting, child rapists and murderers, and certainly there are illegal immigrants who have committed horrific crimes in this country and who I think should be removed. And that's going to generate you some goodwill. But once you get rid of those people, and then you have this massive ICE police force with nothing to do, and they start going around and scooping up people at their kids' graduation or at the church or at the schools, people just don't want that, right? Like, we would rather a nice immigrant family who may have crossed here illegally just live in the United States, right, without going around and having a police force to deport them. And now if they do something illegal, right, if the guy gets drunk or robs a bank and does something crazy, then yeah, I mean, he could get deported at that point. But people don't want children and families being scooped up and thrown out of the country. And so with that being unpopular, you get the protests. But now the whole story is between the protesters and ICE, and not ICE and the actual kind of victims of what's going on here. And it's a really sad political dynamic, and it's giving Trump a lot of political leverage to take this really far down the road to martial law.
Yeah. And that is, where the escalation comes in. But I have to ask this question too, because, there has been a lot of reporting. We've covered it a lot on this show. And we've heard it talked about elsewhere about how, these ICE agents are untrained, they're unqualified, they're just lured into the force by, these $50,000 signing bonuses. I mean, they act like just absolute out of control assholes. And so at that point, I asked myself, okay, in terms of the situation on the ground, would the Insurrection Act be worse than this? Like, let's say the military comes in. When the National Guard went to D.C., we didn't see videos of National Guards people shooting women in the head through the side window of a car. We didn't see National Guards people cursing people out, throwing them on the ground. Like, military people conduct themselves with a professionalism that is obviously not characteristic of these ICE people. So if ICE is a militarized police force anyway, what is really the difference on the ground? Now, the implications of it are worse, obviously, because you're on a road to martial law. So I would agree with that. But in terms of like, what would it look like? Like, is the National Guard being out on the street worse than ICE being out on the street?
I mean, I think you made something of a fair point there. I would say, before you just declare that soldiers are better trained and more professional, ask like an Iraqi or an Afghan about that. And so, look, I think they certainly treat Americans differently for now. Pete Hegseth is in charge of the U.S. military. I think you're going to see a similar decline in the, fitness of our soldiers, not like just physical, just like overall for the job. When you have a lunatic drunk like Pete Hegseth in charge of this multi-trillion-dollar agency, I could see things getting worse. And look, these are just young men who are given a lot of power and guns and uniforms and given orders to go out and restore order. And if, they feel like they have the authority to go further if they're watching the videos of what these ICE guys are doing and are basically told that you're going in to do this, then that's what they're going to do. Now, I imagine that there are just kind of like a strong officer class in the United States military, like people who really do care about making sure you're following all the military rules, that if you are deployed to American streets, like you're not cursing at grandma, you're not spitting at people, you're not hitting people with the butts of your rifle. But now we are just relying on 2 or 3, like what, sergeants, lieutenant colonels, that they really have enough decorum and they have enough respect for the institution of the military that they are forcing their soldiers to behave and treat this properly. Where if you have, some colonel in there who is maybe just a real wild lunatic and is like, go in there and crack down, do what needs to be done, just get the job done. I don't care about how you get it done, just get it done. And so these young men go out there and look, when you're a 24-year-old man and you're muscular and you're fit, the one advantage you have over everybody is you're a hell of a lot stronger than them. So you go and you start throwing them around and beating the hell out of people. I mean, I could really see us going down that path, even with the military, with the rhetoric being used, the precedents being set, and the blank check given to, the soldiers by Hegseth and Trump and the command structure.
Oh, it's certainly possible. And then, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not for invoking the insurrection.
I know.
Like, I'm not supporting that. I'm just, the thought occurred to me, these ICE officers, I mean, these are just like the backbenchers at the Fargo Bowling League. I mean, these people don't have any training. They have no discipline whatsoever. Like
they seem like a bunch of prison guards, like just
they're just
the
a bunch
laziest people that just want to be able to yell at you and expect that you're going to do exactly what they say because they got this badge and they got this gun. They're not particularly smart. They don't read books. They don't read the news, much less watch very much of it, and they just go in the direction pointed and assert their will.
They're like the foot soldiers in those like Ninja Turtle movies, just there's turtles over there, go get them, and they just do it. Whereas, in the military, there is at least some sort of protocol. Now, those protocols can be abused. Obviously, you have a belligerent drunk at the top of the pecking order there. So, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not for it. I think about what it would look like versus what it looks like now. It's hard to imagine that they would conduct themselves worse. I guess the flip side of that is there'd be more of them. Right. Yeah. With more power.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. I think, the ICE, the quality of the ICE cops right now seems to be just at an absolute minimum where they're walking in front of moving cars and then shooting the drivers as if that's some kind of reason to do that. So,
well, exactly. Like that's okay. So that's, I'm glad you mentioned that because that kind of crystallizes it. Like I can't imagine a National Guards person making that mistake as easily. Right. Like you'd think they would know not to do that. Now, obviously, the political implications of it are, and this, was never in question. Obviously, you're talking about a road to martial law and talking about what we've been talking about as a theme on the show. We look at the polling for all of these things that Trump is doing. You're not even approaching 40%, much less 50%. Support for Iran intervention, 30%. Greenland, 14%. His overall approval rating is struggling to crack 40%. So this is not politically viable according to the way we, produce political power in a democratic state. And that is scary because you have to think, well, what is their plan to hang on to power? Is it a martial law type of dynamic? Because there's no way in a fair fight, meaning just at the ballot box that they can win at this rate. They can't. They're too unpopular. So then you have to think, well, how do they plan on maintaining power when the public has turned against them to the extent that they have? It's a very scary thing. And that's, I think, what you were talking about a little earlier.
Yeah, no, I really do see that kind of coming to a head. And I do wonder how the midterms are going to go. As much as the Republicans look like they're losing, the Democrats really haven't started speaking yet. And so Americans kind of forgot how much they hated the Democrats because they've just been watching the Trump train wreck. I mean, it's really incredible that Trump got elected, I think mostly on the immigration issue, and he has lost the American people on that issue in less than a year. That his execution of a policy that probably around 2/3 of Americans were demanding on immigration, and he's completely lost them because he's gone about it in this overly thuggish way where he has these guys out there in mass, and Minneapolis looks like 2020 again with the George Floyd riots. Nobody wants this. Isn't what people wanted when they reelected Donald Trump, is to basically start back up from 2020 with riots and crackdowns, and all the cops are wearing masks still. I guess the liberals took them off, the cops kept them on. That's kind of funny. So this is going to be a mess. I guess one of the things that maybe Trump's counting on is just, kind of like taking Greenland. Who's going to stop them, right? Like if Hakeem Jeffries is Speaker of the House, what's he going to do? Is he going to actually move forward and be able to impeach Donald Trump? I really doubt it. I think he'll be like Nancy Pelosi in, what was that, 2006, when they won the House and suddenly she stopped talking about impeachment right away. And again, I don't know how resounding the Democrats' victory is going to be in the midterms. I know everybody's predicting a big win, but again, once these people start talking, you're going to realize that they don't care about you either. They're not going to have a lot of people rallying behind them. And while they'll certainly win overall, right, it'll probably be a narrow Democratic victory, I think, in November. It won't be enough to impeach the president or really rein him in. And then he's just going to do whatever he wants the same way he does now, because there's really no limit on executive power at this point. And that's not a result of Trump. It's a result of, decades of erosion of limits on all of the executive authorities.
Well, yeah, accelerated by the sort of post 9/11 hysteria that created ICE and that created the DHS. I mean, we didn't used to have this. Like, the people act like this is just like this permanent, immovable structure that's as old as the country itself. No, this is all very recent. This is all an attempt to consolidate authority within the executive. And now, because Trump has no regard for any constitutional pretense and he's unconstrained by technology, now that they have all this AI surveillance stuff built out, yeah, it's just a runaway train at this point. I agree. All right, Kyle. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Please do tell everybody where they can find you and follow you. You have a great show, and I love your writing. I keep as up to date as I can with what you got going on. So tell our audience.
Yeah, well, Keaton, thank you very much for having me on. I've been listening to Do Dissidents for a few years now, so I really enjoy the show, and it's fun to be on. And I had to catch myself a couple times. I was just listening to you and like I'm listening to Do Dissidents and not actually I'm the guest here who's going to have to respond. But my show is the Kyle Anzalone Show. Please check it out over on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Share it out if you can. Keaton, I hope I could get you back. I'll send you an email. Maybe I could get you back on in the next few weeks. And I would love to talk to you about some of this domestic stuff that I don't always have as much time to cover on my show. I mainly do foreign policy stuff. And then my writing, I publish articles at the Libertarian Institute, antiwar.com, and judgenap.com. But everything, shows, articles, is always posted on my @ handle at Kyle Anzalone _. Best place to follow me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. And yes, I would love to come on your show soon. So do keep in touch about that. And I guess I'll see you over there sometime in the next few weeks. Kyle Anzalone, thanks so much for being here. Great to see you again, man.
Thank you, Keaton.
All righty. Have a good night. Bye. Kyle Anzalone, everybody. Round of applause in the chat, please. And thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll take some Rumble rants and some super chats. Thanks once again to Jake in the booth. Jake, we can throw up the scroll if you'd like now while we are here. Hey, if you like what we do and you want to help us do more of it, the best way to do that is to become a member at dodissidents.com /Patreon/Substack or /Locals. Membership starts at just $5 a month, and you get bonus content, call-in access to all of our Q&As. which happen every Sunday night after the main show. Tonight is Sunday, so we will be going over to a Q&A on Rumble pretty shortly. DudeDissidents.com/Rumble is where you go for the Q&A. Members have call-in access. Everyone else gets to hang out and watch in the chat. So for just $5 a month, you get your name and lights here on the scroll. Call in access to our Q&As, ad-free live stream replay. So if you miss a show when it's on live and you want to watch it back free of ad interruptions, we email you an ad-free replay of the show the following day. So thanks, everybody, for your support. You guys are the backbone of the show. Kenman says, Haim Saban made money by buying up trashy properties from foreign markets, retooling them cheaply, and selling in other markets. Never made anything of value. Like Zionism, his work is worth nothing. Thank you, Kenman. Bienticus Prime says, Rothschild's Amalek Nation of Israel, TM. I like that. Is more than participation trophy, the landmass. Eric Rousseau says, I thought they were Jews in black waiting for the mind erasure thingy. Bienticus Prime, isn't it amazing there's this all-powerful being that can do whatever it wants at a whim, but somehow it needs some rando asshole to do things for him. Otherwise, they won't get done. Thank you, Bienticus. You know what you call a person who cheers on the creation of a weapon? The next target. That's right. Zionism is just one more practice of the one true principle, the actual 9 most dangerous words in the English language. It is acceptable this time because I do it. Bienticus Prime says, definition of genocide, geno, birth, side, kill. You kill someone because of the conditions of their birth. I don't know why people think they need experts for that. Yes. No, that was Gavin Newsom playing dumb, but totally ignoring the legal definition according to international law. But of course, they don't care about that. They're very open about the fact they don't care about that. Devour, thanks for the $5. Is the 2026 Iran protest going to be the DJT's Bay of Pigs? Interesting. We need to bring in Katie into the circumcision debate. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, everybody's got strong opinions on that. Bienticus Prime, here's a question. How many countries have to stand with Rothschild's Amalek Nation of Israel, TM, before we call it a globalist empire? Asking for a frond. Old Stoner, I think most Americans don't understand the definition of genocide. Like, it's not Israel committing genocide. It's the USA. Well, it's both by proxy. I am the owl. What's also amazing about this Newsom Shapiro interview is that Newsom is effectively agreeing with Ben, but Ben is still mad that Newsom isn't agreeing hard enough. Ben aside, Shachudo. Well, yeah, no, that's the thing. I mean, that's the other really pathetic thing about Newsom is that his whole strategy here of bringing these people onto his show in the hopes that some Ben Shapiro fans are going to watch him and be like, yeah, I think I'll vote for him. Like, it just doesn't even make any political sense. On top of just how nauseating it is to watch. Shapiro sounds like he constantly has his balls caught in a nutcracker. Yes. Why? Newsom swallows so much shit that his throat never sounds like it's clear. He does have a gravelly, raspy, sandy voice. That is true. Eric Rousseau says, seems like Lindsey Graham is suffering from premature war ejaculation. Yeah, he definitely seems spent. Soon heaven, go Keat on the new baby. Ted Kids is the goal. We are closed at 3. Thank you for your attention to this obvious TLDR. Oh, yeah, that Greenland tweet was way too long to read the whole thing. Way too long. First uranium ever found was in the south of Greenland. Oh, interesting. I did not know that, Sammy. Thank you for that. Starting our war is not getting dragged into yours. Thank you, Brad Gilbert. P. Walker, do you realize how hard it is to piss off Inuit people like this? Well, this is what I mean. That's what I was telling Kyle. I'm like, in this example, it's so cartoonish. I mean, you can't get a more idyllic locale than Greenland. Like, you can't get a better example of people whose only desire in life is to live their life and be left alone to live their life. And yet we're going to do this to them. Like, it's just... It's the behavior of an out-of-control empire in its final throes. That's what it is. Andy Gardner, thanks for the $5. Make America go away is very passive-aggressive, and I love it. I like Greenland. Good luck, too. Sorry for what our desperate empire is about to do. I like Greenland, too. Like, you look at these images of Greenland. I like the fact that they have the buildings painted, these kind of like bright monochromatic patterns, like yellow house, a red house, a blue house. It seems very peaceful. I like the overcast skies too. I like the grayness and the stillness of it. I'm sure it's really cold. I'm sure that would be an adjustment. But yeah, it looks like a very nice place. I agree with you. I like it too. Europe bought your treasuries for your military industrial complex and mercs. Thank you, Brad Gilbert. Should apply for BRICS membership, says Sammy. 100 baht for Russell. Go, Sammy. Thank you for that. Kemen says Joe Rogan said Shirley was a brilliant kid. Brilliant kid. Did you see the video of him with Andrew Callahan? We didn't get to that. Where Andrew Callahan said, "Who's the most benevolent billionaire?" And he's like, "What? What word?" And he says, "Benevolent." He says, "Benevolent." He didn't know the word benevolent. Yeah, no, he's an op, man. I mean, if that is not a creation of some facet of the deep state, government, media, whatever. I don't know what is. Pretty obvious. He was in Greenland last year, asking people how much they would sell Greenland for. Bovino, you could definitely see him working at those camps. You know the ones. Yeah, I mean, what a choice of wardrobe, huh? 2024 Civil War. What kind of American now in real life? Yeah, exactly. Yep. That was a great film. You want to know what that'll look like? I recommend it. RFK Jr. I got so high on scorpion venom in Thailand once that I almost fought my handler because I thought he was Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. I was ready to perform a fatality on him. Thank you, Raven Lass. Professor Brown note, intercepted Secret Service call, escort lady 1 to Shroom 1. Sir, 3:30 a.m. confirm. Affirmative. Code orange. Midnight Hammer is go for launch. T-60. Counting down. Thank you, Professor Brown note. Vienticus says, if the U.S. takes over Greenland, are the makers of the game Plague Inc. going to make it easier to infect? Good question, Vienticus. Thank you for that. All right, everybody. Well, that is our show tonight in at a lean, mean 3 hours and change. Keeping it moving. We want to thank everybody for being here. We are going to continue the show over on Rumble for our Q&A. So dudissidents.com/Rumble is where you go if you would like to call in to the show. We will take your calls after a 5-minute intermission, and then we will be back Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Russ will be here this Tuesday. Russ will be here for, like I said, almost the duration of his trip until he goes to China, at which point we have our all-star guest host rotation kick in to full swing. Got a lot of people in mind for that. Gonna have to get Nick Cruz back in here soon. We're gonna have to do a post-duopoly show soon too. Actually, we haven't done those in a long time since he switched channels. We got Kit coming back. I'm going to invite Jimmy on to co-host one of these nights, and so we'll bring back a full rotation when Russ is in China. But that's in a couple months. So Russ is going to be sitting in on just about every show between now and when he goes to China. I think there's only 2 more that he missed. So he will be on with me for the rest of the week, including Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks very much to Katie Halper and Kyle Anzalone for sitting in with me. You guys are lifesavers. Appreciate you both so much. It was great to talk to you. Thanks to the YouTubers. Thanks to the Rumblers. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. Thanks to Jake in the booth. We will take a 5-minute break and continue the party over on the Q&A side. If you're joining us for that, we'll see you in 5 minutes at dudissidents.com/Rumble. If you're not joining us for that, we'll see you Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern here back on the main channel. Until then, thanks very much for staying up with us this evening. Be safe and be well. Courage.
Please clap.